Chapter 942. In the Dark Moon Forest Pass, Lu Yi had just closed the door and made up his mind not to get involved in today's muddy waters when he heard a woman's angry voice. "Li Taibai, get out here. Today I will tear you to pieces." He was stunned as he couldn't understand why someone would want to kill him. Judging from the other party's aura, she was in the Spirit Sea realm. He had only been in the Dark Moon Forest Pass for 2 days. If he had offended anyone, it would be Tan Shu, whom he killed a few days ago. Is she here for revenge? If that's the case, then what happened today must be related to what happened a few days ago. He frowned secretly. Although he didn't know who the Spirit Sea Realm cultivator was, she was undoubtedly from Grand Heaven Alliance and was most likely one of Tan Shu's elders. It wasn't wise to send out troops just because of Tan Shu's death. Outside the mountain pass, Lu Yuemei's gaze swept over the area, but she still couldn't find any trace of Li Taibai. She became even angrier as she turned her gaze towards Lin Yu and Zhang Kuan. She gritted her teeth and said, "You asked for it." She turned around and returned to her camp. "Prepare for battle." Zhang Kuan gave the order with a solemn expression. Looking at the current situation, today's battle was unavoidable. Lu Yuemei had lost her mind. Unless Myriad Demon Ridge handed over Li Taibai, Grand Heaven Alliance wouldn't retreat. However, the two camps were on opposite sides and had a blood feud. Not to mention Li Taibai's contribution to Myriad Demon Ridge a few days ago. He was a 3rd Order True Lake Realm cultivator who killed a 7th Order True Lake Realm cultivator. Even if he was an ordinary cultivator, Myriad Demon Ridge wouldn't hand him over. They could only fight. Search. Inside and outside the pass, the atmosphere instantly turned solemn and tense. Thousands of cultivators from the Grand Heaven Alliance had already formed a formation to tackle the enemy. Like a black cloud, they slowly advanced towards the Dark Moon Forest Pass. When they were a certain distance away, the Grand Heaven Alliance cultivators suddenly sped up. At the same time, an angry roar came from the city walls of the Dark Moon Forest Pass. "Kill!" In an instant, many formations on the city walls buzzed as their powers were activated. Powerful attacks turned into bright lights as they shot towards the incoming enemies. A few months ago, the Lonely Mountain Pass in the Myriad Devil Ridge had also been breached. However, at that time, the breaching force was the Fire Spirit Race's army that had been sealed for a long time and had lost their minds. Faced with Lonely Mountain City's various countermeasures, the irrational Fire Spirit Race suffered heavy casualties in an instant. However, Grand Heaven Alliance wasn't the Fire Spirit tribe after all. Since they were here to tackle the problem, they were naturally fully prepared. When the attacks from the Dark Moon Forest Pass arrived, the defensive formation on the row of armored battleships in front of the Grand Heaven Alliance army was instantly activated. It turned into a huge shield and blocked all the attacks. Many cultivators from the Grand Heaven Alliance hid behind the armored battleships and moved forward quickly. One side attacked fiercely, while the other side pushed through the baptism of numerous attacks. A great battle had begun. At this moment, Lu Yi had already leapt onto the roof and was looking down from above. Seeing this scene from afar, even though he wasn't directly involved, he couldn't help but feel his fighting spirit surge, wishing he could charge into battle right now. Since he started cultivating until now, although he had fought many people and even had the terrifying achievement of killing 2,000 enemies from the Myriad Devil Ridge alone, this scale of battle was completely different from what he had experienced before. In such a big environment, the cultivators from both sides were like two torrents that gathered. Every cultivator was a part of the torrent, and no one could stay out of it. Even the most cowardly soldiers would be easily stimulated to fight. However, he really couldn't get involved in today's matter. Li Taibai was a sword cultivator from the Myriad Devil Ridge. However, Lu Yi was a soldier cultivator from the Grand Heaven Alliance. He killed Tan Shu to stand up for his 3rd senior brother, so he wouldn't feel any psychological burden. However, he definitely couldn't become the enemy of the Grand Heaven Alliance in such a situation. Therefore, he could only wait and see. Between the attack and defense, the Grand Heaven Alliance army was getting closer and closer to the Dark Moon Forest Pass. However, since ancient times, the defending side always had the upper hand in such a battle. Following Zhang Kuan and Lin Yu's deployment, the Grand Heaven Alliance's iron-armored warships gradually suffered damage. Without the protection of the iron-armored warships, the Grand Heaven Alliance cultivators hiding behind the warships suffered some casualties. Therefore, it was never easy to break through a defense. Unless one had an absolute advantage in terms of military strength, no one would be willing to start a war easily. However, the startling Waves Lake Pass had mobilized their troops today, which made Jianghu and Lin Yu even more vigilant. Lu Yueme had indeed lost her mind, but she was a divine sea realm cultivator after all. It was impossible that she didn't know the drawbacks of breaking through a defense. Since she knew the drawbacks, she must have some confidence in breaking through a defense. What was she relying on? Jianghu and Lin Yu didn't know. All they could do was to stay alert. As the thousands of cultivators from the Grand Heaven Alliance gradually advanced, the number of casualties increased. There were less than half of the iron-armored warships at the front. Most of the cultivators from the Grand Heaven Alliance didn't have any defense to rely on, so they could only move around and dodge the incoming attacks. Something isn't right. On the city wall, Zhang Kun suddenly shouted. Lin Yu also noticed that something was wrong. According to the progress of the Grand Heaven Alliance's army, they should have started their counterattack by now because they were close enough. Only by counterattacking could they wear down the power of the Dark Moon Forest Pass's defense formation. Only by breaking through the Dark Moon Forest Pass's defense formation could they break through a defense formation. However, in fact, even when they were close enough to counterattack, the Grand Heaven Alliance still didn't do much. They seemed to only want to push closer to the Dark Moon Forest Pass. Be careful of ghost cultivators, Lin Yu shouted. Her spiritual consciousness surged and she started to check the surroundings. She originally thought that the Grand Heaven Alliance had sent some ghost cultivators to break through the defense formation secretly. However, she didn't find anything after checking. The attacks from the Myriad Demon's Ridge were getting fiercer. The casualties of the Grand Heaven Alliance's cultivators were increasing. Even so, the cultivators from the startling Waves Lake Pass were still advancing in an orderly manner. 30 minutes later, the Grand Heaven Alliance's army was only 1,000 feet away from the Dark Moon Forest Pass. However, they paid a huge price for that. Since the beginning of the battle, the Grand Heaven Alliance didn't attack even once. They were only defending and dodging from the beginning to the end. However, Zhang Kun wasn't happy at all. The more the situation was like that, the more determined the Grand Heaven Alliance was. The uneasiness in his heart was extremely strong. However, he really didn't know what the opponent was trying to do. Hence, even though he was prepared, he didn't know where to start. They're trying to break the defense formation by force, Lin Yu shouted. After advancing to such a close distance, the Grand Heaven Alliance's intention was obvious. They wanted to break the defense formation of the Dark Moon Forest Pass in one go. However, could they do it? If they couldn't, the Grand Heaven Alliance would be in trouble this time. As they were so close to each other, the space for the Grand Heaven Alliance's cultivators to move became smaller. Once they couldn't break the defense formation or escape, it was highly possible that they would be annihilated. By then, even if Lu Yueme and the other Divine Ocean Realm cultivator didn't die, they would definitely be punished by the Grand Heaven Alliance's military law. That was a fate worse than dying in battle. Kill! Lu Yueme's voice suddenly rang out. As she gave the order, the situation seemed to have changed mysteriously. As they advanced to the front of the Dark Moon Forest Pass, many of the Grand Heaven Alliance's cultivators saw their companions getting injured and dying in battle. They had nowhere to vent their anger. As Lu Yueme gave the order, all of the Grand Heaven Alliance's cultivators vented their anger. All of them took out something from their storage pouches and attacked the Dark Moon Forest Pass. In an instant, the ferocious attacks were like a storm. However, the strange thing was that the attacks didn't have strong spiritual power waves and didn't give off a dangerous feeling. What's that? Lin Yu used her eyesight to take a look. She saw that the Grand Heaven Alliance's cultivators were attacking things that looked like spirit stones. She was confused. Fire spirit stones? She was confused. Why did the Grand Heaven Alliance attack so many fire spirit stones? It was true that the energy within the fire spirit rock was not stable enough. If it was knocked into, it could explode and cause a certain amount of damage. However, a simple explosion of the fire spirit rock would not pose much of a threat to the defenses of the Dark Moon Forest Pass. The Grand Heaven Alliance's trump card, was this thing? Just as she was confused, Jianghu suddenly exclaimed, "Not good, it's the exploding fire spirit stones." Lin Yu's heart skipped a beat. She felt like she had heard of the exploding fire spirit stones before. However, she didn't have time to think about it. The exploding fire spirit stones that covered the sky had already crashed onto the light screen of the Dark Moon Forest Pass's formation. Boom, 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 boom. As the first sound rang out, it was followed by a continuous buzzing sound. Huge flames surged out like a volcanic eruption. The explosion of each exploding fire spirit stone was equivalent to the full power attack of a true lake stage cultivator. In an instant, at least 20,000 exploding fire spirit stones buzzed together. The power produced was terrifying. Lu Yi, who was watching this scene from the roof, felt his eyelids twitch violently. He didn't expect to see such a scene. Exploding fire spirit stones? He was too familiar with this thing. He was the one who had refined this thing. However, this thing was made by Gan Wudong. It belonged to the Law Division. Why would it appear here? Although he didn't know why the exploding fire spirit stones would appear here, he knew that he was in big trouble. This was the first time something that he made appeared in a battle between two factions. Furthermore, it was used against him. How ridiculous was this? Furthermore, looking at the number of exploding fire spirit stones, it seemed like all the exploding fire spirit stones that he made previously were used up. All for the sake of achieving success in one fell swoop. The explosion of 20,000 exploding fire spirit stones was equivalent to the full power attack of 20,000 true lake stage cultivators. Moreover, it was done in an extremely short amount of time. The defensive formation of the Dark Moon Forest Pass wasn't bad. It could even block the attack of a Divine Sea stage cultivator. However, at this moment, its luster dimmed and it started to waver. On the light screen of the formation, countless ripples spread out in all directions. The scene was spectacular. Chapter 943. The power of 20,000 explosive fire spirit stones was released at the same time. Even so, the defensive formation of the Dark Moon Forest Pass was still intact. Just as Lin Yu and Zhang Kun secretly let out a sigh of relief, a terrifying energy fluctuation suddenly appeared. Lu Yueme was surrounded by spiritual energy. Her clothes and black hair were fluttering in the wind. She took out a treasure that looked like a short spear. She poured her spiritual energy into the spear. Instantly, the short spear was covered in thunder and turned into a bolt of lightning. Lu Yueme grabbed the short spear as if she was really grabbing a bolt of lightning. Destructive lightning spear. Zhang Kuen's eyelids twitched. He recognized the short spear at a glance. It wasn't that he paid much attention to Lu Yueme. It was just that the destructive lightning spear was too famous because it was the most precious treasure of the Heavenly Yuan sect. It was barely on the same level as the mountain river diagram that shook the 9 states. Generally speaking, this kind of most precious treasure was kept in the sect. It wouldn't be used unless it was a major event that would affect the future of the sect. Therefore, no one expected Lu Yueme to bring this treasure out this time. She obviously didn't have the qualifications to do so by herself. However, she had Yu Huajin behind her, so there was room for manipulation. If it was under normal circumstances, the defensive formation of the Dark Moon Forest Pass might be able to block the spear. However, the formation had just been severely damaged and was about to fall. Once Lu Yueme activated the power of the destructive lightning spear, the consequences would be unimaginable. "Don't even think about it," Zhang Kun shouted. He rushed toward Lu Yueme in an attempt to stop her. However, as soon as he moved, another Divine Sea Realm cultivator from the Haotian Alliance met him and stopped him halfway. Although Zhang Kun was impatient, he could only accept the fight. Seeing this, Lin Yu could only rush out of the pass and rush toward Lu Yueme. However, Lu Yueme didn't even look at her. She just poured her spiritual power into the spear in her hand. Her eyes were deep as she looked toward the Dark Moon Forest. Somewhere in the pass, she gritted her teeth and shouted, "Thief, you will die today." She had already found Lu Ye's trace. It was true that she had never seen Li Taibai before. However, when Lu Yi killed Tan Shu, many cultivators of the Grand Heaven Alliance witnessed it. It was not difficult for her to know what Li Taibai looked like. Therefore, she immediately saw Lu Yi standing on a rooftop and looking in their direction. She was dressed in white and had a gourd at her waist. Such a symbol was too obvious. "You have to get past me first," Lin Yu shouted. As soon as she finished speaking, a figure dashed out from the side. Before he made his move, no one noticed him, but once he made his move, his identity as a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator was revealed. Lin Yu was instantly stopped. Oh no! Lin Yu had a bad feeling. She and Zhang Kuan had been guarding against the Haotian Alliance for a long time to see if there were other warriors of the Spirit Sea Realm hiding in the dark. Now, it seemed that there were indeed some of them. However, they hid very well and didn't reveal any flaws. Therefore, neither Lin Yu nor Zhang Kuan noticed. Now that there was no one from the Myriad Devil Ridge to restrain Lu Yueme, and she had a divine item like the Annihilation Lightning Spear in her hands, the Dark Moon Forest Pass was in danger. Fortunately, when she saw that the situation was not good, she had already sent a message to the left and right mountain passes. 2 Spirit Sea Realm cultivators were coming from the left and right mountain passes. They would arrive within an hour. As long as they could hold on for an hour, the crisis would be resolved. At the same time, the lightning spear in Lu Yueme's hand turned into a bolt of lightning and struck towards the Dark Moon Forest Pass. There wasn't much noise and it was almost silent. However, when the lightning fell on the protective formation, the formation that was already on the verge of collapse became even more difficult. It was holding on. Crack. Only then did the deafening sound of a thunderclap explode. The moment the lightning spear landed on the protective formation, the lightning spread everywhere, making the entire protective formation look like a semicircular lightning net. The protective formation that was on the verge of collapse could no longer hold on. With a cracking sound, it shattered like a broken mirror. In an instant, the cultivators of the Haotian Alliance who had been holding back for a long time rushed into the Dark Moon Forest Pass under the lead of Lu Yuem. The cultivators from both sides clashed head-on, and a great battle broke out. Lu Yueme, on the other hand, killed her way out of the Myriad Devil Ridge cultivators' camp. She was a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator who had no one to restrain her. In such a situation, the power she could unleash was extremely terrifying. If she wanted to, she could start a massacre. However, she did not do so. Instead, she landed on the roof where Lu Yi was standing just now. Looking left and right, there was no trace of Lu Yi. When she activated the lightning spear of destruction and the entire Dark Moon Forest Pass's protective formation was enveloped by the lightning net, Lu Yi had already escaped. Naturally, he would not stand here and wait for his death. Lu Yueme came here specifically to find him. Breaking through the barrier was just a process. Hence, he knew that he could not fall into Lu Yueme's hands no matter what. He was currently hiding in a secluded place. He activated the breath concealment and concealment spirit marks and concealed his aura completely. He did not move at all. The rest was up to the will of the heavens. However, how difficult would it be to escape from under the nose of a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator? Lu Yueme showed a look of surprise. She knew that her attack just now was not something a third-order true Lake Realm cultivator could take. It should have immobilized him, but the result was not satisfactory. Artifact robe? Lu Yueme's eyes were sharp. She could tell at a glance that the Scarlet Dragon battle robe worn by Lu Yi was extraordinary. She knew that her opponent must have relied on the power of his artifact robe to take her blow. However, so what if he could take her blow? Being targeted by her, how could a true Lake Realm cultivator do anything? In front of her, Lu Yi was fleeing. If he was not afraid of exposing his identity by activating his flight spirit mark, he would have already used it. Now, he could only use the wind travel spirit mark. However, with his third-order true Lake Realm cultivation, he was still able to move like lightning. But then again, the difference in cultivation was too great. Even if he activated his flight spirit mark, it would be useless. A huge doubt welled up in his heart, because he faintly felt that Lu Yueme had no intention of killing him. Otherwise, the blow just now would not have been so weak. With the protection of the Scarlet Dragon battle robe and his strong physique, although he was caught off guard, he only suffered a minor injury. He did not think that the other party would let him go out of kindness. The moment their eyes met, he could see the hatred and murderous intent in the other party's eyes. Lu Yueme could not find Lu Ye's whereabouts for a while and could not help but become angry. She also knew that Lu Yi could not have escaped in such a short time and must be hiding somewhere nearby. She immediately pushed her divine sense to investigate the surroundings, trying to find Lu Ye's whereabouts. However, she found nothing. "Let's see where you can hide," Lu Yueme shouted angrily. The spirit energy around her body fluctuated, and a powerful spirit technique swept out in all directions. Many houses collapsed in an instant, turning into ruins. With Lu Yueme as the center, the power of the spirit technique quickly spread out in all directions. Many myriad demon ridge cultivators who could not dodge in time were caught in it and died in an instant. Lu Yi did not dare to look, but he personally felt the anger of this spirit sea realm cultivator and was secretly shocked. The spirit technique's power was getting closer and closer to his hiding place, and he could not hide any longer. A moment later, the helpless Lu Yi could only soar into the sky and quickly rush out of the mountain pass. "Where do you think you're going?" Lu Yueme turned her head and stared at Lu Ye's figure. She raised her hand and shot a spirit technique from afar. Feeling the danger behind him, Lu Yi wanted to dodge, but the spirit sea realm cultivator's attack was too fierce. Even if he wanted to, he was powerless. The spirit technique landed solidly on his back. Lu Yi staggered and spat out a mouthful of blood, as if he had suffered a heavy blow. Even his spirit energy was somewhat scattered. Now that she had the opportunity to kill him, she wanted to capture him alive. The difference in strength between them was too great. Lu Yueme indeed had the ability to capture him alive. She probably wanted to bring him back to pay respects to the dead Tan Shu. In an instant, Lu Yi saw through Lu Yueme's plan. This was good news for him. If a spirit sea realm cultivator really wanted to kill him, his chances of survival would be very low. If she wanted to capture him alive, at least his current situation would not be too dangerous. Just as he was thinking, Lu Yueme's second attack arrived. Lu Yi sensed it, but he was still unable to dodge. Once again he was hit in the back. Spitting out another mouthful of blood, Lu Yi saw stars in front of his eyes. His body fell uncontrollably. Although the pain in his chest was unbearable, it confirmed his speculation. Lu Yueme had no intention of killing him. She really did want to capture him alive. "The point guard is here." Before he even landed, the third attack had arrived. This time, Li didn't think about dodging. He hurriedly activated the Scarlet Dragon battle robe's protection. In an instant, a layer of light covered his body, like a protective formation. This was the magic of the robe. It had a protective formation inside that could be activated by spiritual energy. If used properly, it could often produce miraculous effects. Relying on the Scarlet Dragon battle robe's protection, Lu Yi was able to block the third attack. He fell into a building, smashing the roof into pieces. The moment he landed, he quickly stood up, took a deep breath, and forcibly calmed the chaotic spiritual energy in his body. Then he madly poured it into the sword gourd at his waist. Looking up, Lu Yueme's figure quickly floated down from the broken roof. Obviously, she wanted to capture him in one go. For eyes met, and Lu Yueme gritted her teeth. "You deserve to die." As she spoke, she stretched out her hand to grab Lu Yi. A giant hand condensed from pure spiritual energy slammed down, and the broken house collapsed in an instant. Lu Yi patted the sword gourd at his waist and shouted, "Go!" Boundless sword light surged out from the sword gourd. The sword light transformed into a sword dragon that shook its head and wagged its tail to meet the giant hand made of spiritual energy. Such means were obviously beyond the scope of what a third-order true Lake Realm cultivator could perform. Seeing this, Lu Yueme couldn't help but be startled. She was furious, and the speed at which the giant hand made of spiritual energy slammed down became even more ferocious. The sword dragon collided with the giant hand, and in an instant, the sword light was annihilated. The quality of the sword gourd was indeed beyond the scope of Lu Ye's understanding. However, at this moment, he couldn't activate the sword gourd's power at all. All he could rely on was the sword chi that the sword gourd absorbed from spirit artifacts. He could instantly kill Tan Shu, a 7th-order true lake realm cultivator, but facing a spirit sea realm cultivator like Lu Yueme, such means were still weak. Fortunately, he was able to delay the speed of the giant hand made of spiritual energy. Lu Yi clicked to download the best book-chasing app. Many readers used it to read books. Chapter 944. Lu Yueme never expected that a mere 3rd-order true lake realm cultivator would have such a strong foundation. It was beyond her imagination. One had to know that all 3 of her previous attacks were aimed at severely injuring Lu Yi, and each of them was even fiercer than the last. However, Li Tai-bai didn't lose his ability to move even after the 3 attacks. He even had the strength to resist her. Tan Shu had been killed by such a method. She once heard that Li Tai-bai, who killed Tan Shu, was a sword cultivator who could ride a sword. He killed his enemies with his aura. This person was very scheming. He fought 6 battles with Grand Heaven Alliance. He didn't use his full strength in the first 5 battles and didn't even injure or kill his opponents. Only in the last battle did he suddenly kill his opponent. Tan Shu's death was caused by his carelessness and underestimation of his opponent. However, it was also caused by Li Tai-bai's careful planning. Lu Yueme hated Li Tai-bai to the core. The purpose of this trip was to bring him back and bring him to Qin Shu's grave to offer his life as a sacrifice to comfort him. She thought it would be a piece of cake but didn't expect so many troubles to arise. Now that her means were resisted by a true lake realm cultivator, she was even more annoyed. Just as she was about to take down Lu Yi in one fell swoop, a loud shout came from afar. "Fellow Taoist Lu, finish this quickly." It was another spirit sea realm cultivator from Shocking Waves Lake Pass. Although they relied on the power of 20,000 explosive fire spirit rocks and the annihilation thunder spear to break the startling Waves Lake Pass's defensive formation, they suffered a lot of casualties previously. In the current head-on confrontation, the Grand Heaven Alliance's cultivators did not have much of an advantage. Moreover, this was the territory of 10,000 Demons Ridge. 10,000 Demons Ridge must have asked for reinforcements. For Grand Heaven Alliance, a prolonged battle was disadvantageous. He had an agreement with Lu Yueme. He and another invited warrior of the Spirit Sea realm would block Lin Yu and Zhang Kuan. Lu Yueme would enter the mountain pass and kill Li Tai-bai and the other soldiers of the Demon's Ridge. They would aim to cripple the defenders of the Dark Moon Forest Pass in this battle. World Daluo, by then, they could retreat safely. But now, it seemed that Lu Yueme didn't fulfill her promise. This woman wanted to capture Li Tai-bai alive. Otherwise, how could she not succeed? The current situation wasn't favorable for Grand Heaven Alliance. If Lu Yueme continued to be delayed, Grand Heaven Alliance would have to pay a huge price to escape. In desperation, he could only shout from afar. Although Lu Yueme was blinded by hatred, she was still a warrior at the Spirit Sea realm after all. How could she not know the changes in the battle? Initially, Zhang Xian had intended to capture Li Tai-bai alive, but upon seeing the other party's means, he knew that he couldn't drag this out any longer. "I can't let you live!" Lu Yueme shouted angrily, her killing intent surging. If a trivial third-order true lake realm cultivator had such strength, what would happen if he was allowed to grow up? In recent years, Lu Ye from the Jade Blood sect had appeared in the Grand Heaven Alliance. He was a shocking talent and had caused great trouble for the sects in the Myriad Devil Ridge in the Spirit Stream battlefield and the Cloud River battlefield. Even the top sects could not do anything to him. Because of some special reasons, Lu Yueme also paid more attention to Lu Yi. But from what he saw, this Li Tai-bai was no weaker than Lu Ye. In fact, he felt that Li Tai-bai was even stronger. It could be said that Li Tai-bai was Lu Ye of the Myriad Devil Ridge. The Myriad Devil Ridge did not have a good way to deal with the real Lu Ye, but at this moment, she had Li Tai-bai's life in her hands. Furthermore, she had a personal grudge against him. This was a God-given opportunity, so she had to eliminate him completely. As she shouted angrily, she pushed her spirit chi. At the same time, a mysterious power surged out and rushed towards Lu Yi. Obviously, she had used her divine sense attack. Her cultivation was much stronger than Ning who Lu Yi had met in the Immortal Dawn Mountain. She was at the 7th Order Divine Sea Realm. Ning who had just entered the Divine Sea Realm, and Immortal Dawn Mountain was a 4th grade sect. His foundation was not strong, so his use of divine sense attacks was very weak. He could only use his divine sense to attack. But Lu Yueme was different. She was from a 1st grade Heavenly Yuan sect, and her cultivation was 5 orders higher than Ning Hu's. Her use of divine sense was undoubtedly much more subtle. As soon as he used his divine sense, Lu Yi felt a sense of impending doom. All of a sudden, he vaguely felt a sharp attack coming from the void, which instantly entered his mind. He immediately knew what he had encountered. After all, he had experienced it before. It could be said that he was familiar with it the first time, the second time, and the third time. For a moment, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was difficult for other true Lake Realm cultivators to encounter a Divine Sea Realm cultivator targeting them, but he had encountered it 3 times since leaving the Cloud River battlefield. The first time, it was fine as he wasn't targeted, but the aftermath of the Divine Sense attack by Wan Zhang on Thought Moon Immortal had swept over him. Even so, he had fallen unconscious. But later, he had profited from the disaster and formed his own Divine Lake. The second time was from Ning Hu of the Immortal Dawn Mountain. This was the 3rd time. Lu Yi was incomparably glad that he had the foresight to pay such a huge price to protect his own Divine Lake. He had also obtained the teachings of the Gold and Silver Flood Dragons, obtaining the Twin Dragons' method of protecting the sea. Otherwise, he would have already met with disaster in the Immortal Dawn Mountain. The golden lock hanging on his chest flashed. At the same time, the roar of a dragon resounded in his mind. 2 layers of protection had been activated. The protection of the golden lock was better than nothing. This time, the twin dragons protecting the seas failed to protect Lu Yi completely. The attack that came from the void actually broke through the twin dragons protecting the seas and directly cut into his deity's pool. It wasn't that the twin dragon's sea guard was weak. After all, it was just a protective measure left by the 2 flood dragons beside Lu Ye's divine lake. Lu Yueme's killing intent had been aroused and she had used her full strength. The twin dragon sea guard was naturally unable to completely defend against the attack. Lu Yueme's divine sense attack was weakened by more than half and slashed into the divine lake. It didn't cause any waves. The soul-suppressing pagoda that was exchanged from the War Merit Pavilion was indeed an excellent soul artifact. With this pagoda guarding the divine lake, it didn't suffer any destructive attacks at all. If it were any other true Lake Realm cultivator, even a 9th Order cultivator, they would have died on the spot. Lu Yi only felt a slight pain in the depths of his mind before he was fine. However, he let out an exaggerated scream. Even the spiritual energy in his body became extremely scattered at this moment. It was as if he had been killed. As his spiritual energy scattered, the defensive barrier formed by the many-sword cheese suddenly loosened. It could no longer resist. Die! Lu Yueme shouted. The giant hand of spiritual energy pressed down and drowned Lu Ye's figure. Dust flew everywhere. Lu Yueme swept away the dust with a wave of her sleeve. Looking down, she saw Lu Yi lying flat on the ground with a pool of red blood below him. His whole body was like a broken porcelain. His exposed skin was full of cracks and blood was flowing out. He was motionless and his aura was weak. The spiritual energy fluctuations emitted from his body were only at the level of a spirit stream realm cultivator. Glaring at Lu Yi hatefully, Lu Yueme gritted her teeth. You got off too easy. She had originally planned to capture him alive and bring him back. In the end, she was forced to kill him. The depression in her heart was hard to vent. She didn't care about Lu Ye's life or death. She was confident that after her various methods, even if Lu Yi didn't die immediately, he wouldn't live for more than an incense stick's worth of time. Leaving him alive and letting him taste the despair of death was more to her liking. She turned around and charged towards the myriad Demon Ridge crowd. She was a 7th Order Divine Sea Realm cultivator who had no one to restrain her, so no one could stop her. For a time, Myriad Demon Ridge suffered heavy casualties, causing Lin Yu and Zhang Kuan's eyes to bulge, but there was nothing they could do. After ruthlessly slaughtering and venting her anger, Lu Yueme shouted, "Retreat!" The Grand Heaven Alliance cultivators who were trembling with the Myriad Demon Ridge all over Dark Moon Forest Pass received the order. They fought and retreated in an orderly manner. Even if the Myriad Demon Ridge wanted to pursue, they were afraid of Lu Yueme's might and didn't dare to act rashly. After a short while, the Grand Heaven Alliance came and left in a grandiose manner. Even the corpses of the cultivators who died in the battle were all taken away. Although Lin Yu and Zhang Kuan were furious, they could only watch as the Shocking Waves Lake Pass army retreated. Both of them felt suffocated and panicked. Thunder roared and lightning flashed in the sky. Suddenly, a storm came down. Dark Moon Forest Pass was a mess. In the ruins, bean-sized raindrops dripped down. Lu Yi, who was lying on the ground, slowly opened his eyes. He stretched out his hand with difficulty and put the golden body token hidden in his sleeve into his storage space. If Lu Yueme had insisted on killing him just now, he would have had to use the golden body token to protect himself. Otherwise, he would have died without a doubt. Fortunately, Lu Yueme felt that he didn't have long to live, so she didn't pay much attention to him. Of course, the main reason was that time was tight. She also knew that she couldn't delay for too long. Otherwise, once the Divine Sea Realm cultivators from Myriad Demon Ridge arrived, not only would she be in danger, but many of the Grand Heaven Alliance soldiers would also suffer heavy casualties. Lu Yueme didn't want to capture him alive to kill him, but at least she could avenge the death of Tan Shu. Lu Ye's eyes were calm. He didn't know Lu Yueme's name, but from the other Divine Sea Realm cultivators' words, the other party's surname was Lu. Thinking back to the battle just now, it could be said to be extremely thrilling. It was also at the crucial moment that he had a flash of inspiration, which allowed him to escape from the disaster. The moment the other party used their spiritual sense to attack, Lu Yi only had two choices. He could go with the flow or counterattack. If he went with the flow, it would end up like this. If he counterattacked, it would only lead to an even fiercer attack. At that time, the golden body token would definitely be lost. Therefore, Lu Yi made a prompt decision and pretended to be disturbed by the spiritual sense attack. Even his spiritual energy became chaotic. He even imitated what a normal true Lake Realm cultivator would look like when they were attacked by such means. After all, he had experienced it before, so he was very familiar with how to disguise himself. As for the Spirit Stream Realm spiritual energy waves emitted from his body, it was naturally the effect of imitating power. Lu Yueme saw that his spiritual energy waves were weak and he looked miserable. In addition, he took her spiritual sense attack head-on. Naturally, she would think that he didn't have long to live. However, she didn't know that all of this was just a disguise. She didn't have too much resentment. After all, he was from the Grand Heaven Alliance. He killed Tan Shu, so it was natural for the other party to want to avenge Tan Shu. If he was really from the Myriad Devil Ridge, then it was natural for him to hate Lu Yueme. However, just to avenge a personal grudge, he mobilized so many troops and even caused many soldiers of the Grand Heaven Alliance to die in battle. That was something he shouldn't have done. For the Shocking Waves Lake Pass to have such a Divine Sea Realm cultivator as its master, it was indeed the sorrow of many soldiers there. Click to download the best book-chasing app. Many readers use this to read books aloud. Chapter 945. After the Haotian Alliance retreated, the Divine Sea Realm reinforcements from the 10,000 Demons Ridge finally arrived. It wasn't that they weren't fast enough. It was just that the Haotian Alliance was too fast and caught the Dark Moon Forest Pass off guard. Originally, Lin Yu and Zhang Kuan thought that they could hold on for an hour with the protection of the pass. However, they were caught off guard by the Haotian Alliance's exploding Fire Spirit Rock and shattering Thunder Spear. The protection formation was broken, which led to the subsequent events. In this battle, the Haotian Alliance suffered a lot of casualties, and so did the 10,000 Demons Ridge. It was mainly because Lu Yueme killed a lot of people. An unrestrained Divine Sea Realm cultivator was too scary. Heavy rain poured down. The entire pass was bathed in a sorrowful atmosphere. The surviving soldiers started to clean up the battlefield and take care of the injured. Li Taibai is here, someone exclaimed. Then, a few figures rushed over from all directions and saw Lu Ye's miserable injuries. They were all secretly shocked. Quick, take him down. Lu Yi, who was pretending to be unconscious, felt that someone used spiritual power to wrap around his body. Soon, he was transferred to a safe place. He heard suppressed groans and cries. This was obviously a place for the injured cultivators. He sensed that there were many medical cultivators running around to treat the injured cultivators. Soon, someone came to his side. When he saw his condition, he couldn't help but exclaim, "His injuries are so serious. Elder Yu, you don't know." Li Taibai was targeted by a divine sea realm cultivator. These injuries were caused by Lu Yueme. "Elder Yu, please save him." Someone explained. Lu Yi killed Tan Shu a few days ago, which greatly boosted the morale of the soldiers in the Dark Moon Forest Pass. Many people also realized his great potential. Naturally, many people wanted to befriend him. Today, Lu Yueme killed her way into the Dark Moon Forest Pass and targeted Lu Yi directly. Many people saw that too. So, they knew how Lu Yi got his injuries. "He's Li Taibai, who's been in the limelight recently," Elder Yu said. Obviously, he had heard of Li Taibai's name recently. Heroes come from the young indeed. It's really amazing to be able to survive a divine sea realm cultivator. I'll try my best. Thank you, Elder Yu. I still have military matters to attend to. I'll take my leave. Go. A moment later, Lu Yi felt a gentle power enveloping his body. It should be Old Yu's healing method. Quietly probing, this medical cultivator called Old Yu wasn't young and his cultivation wasn't bad, but he was only at the 9th order true lake realm and not at the divine sea realm. Lu Yi immediately felt relieved. His injuries were indeed very serious. His divine soul was fine, but the key was his physical body. Lu Yueme was angry and wanted to kill him with her palm. Fortunately, he had a strong physique and the protection of the Scarlet Dragon battle armor. Otherwise, he would have been smashed to smithereens. Even so, Lu Ye's physical condition was not optimistic at this moment. If not for the fear of exposing himself, Lu Yi would have already fainted. He forcefully maintained his consciousness because he was afraid that once he fainted, the 1,000-faced spirit tattoos would lose their effect. At that time, his true appearance would be revealed. When the cultivators of the Myriad Devil Ridge saw that Li Taibai had turned into Lu Ye, they would become a laughingstock. At this moment, under Old Yu's treatment, Lu Yi only felt the pain all over his body weaken a little. Time passed. Old Yu was indeed doing his best to treat him, but Lu Ye's injuries were too serious. Even with his strong physical foundation, it would not be easy for him to completely recover. During this period, some people came to visit Lu Yi, but what puzzled Lu Yi was that Tong Shuyao did not appear. This made him faintly realize that Tong Shuyao had either died in the previous battle or was seriously injured like him. Otherwise, based on her previous attitude towards him, it was impossible for her not to come and visit him. He didn't think too much about it. The path of cultivation was full of thorns. Life and death were normal. Time passed. Until a certain moment, Lu Yi suddenly heard a familiar voice. "How is he?" It was Lin Yu who came to check on him. Old Yu, who had been taking care of him carefully, immediately replied, "The bottom of his body is not bad. He barely saved his life, but what? Logically speaking, with his physical foundation, he should have woken up by now, but he is still unconscious. This old master suspects that his soul is injured, causing him to be unconscious. After all, he escaped from a spirit sea realm cultivator. Lu Yueme is very likely to have used her divine sense to attack him." Lu Yueme did use her divine sense to attack. Lin Yu took the lead. Although she was blocked by a spirit sea realm cultivator from Grand Heaven Alliance, she was still paying attention to Lu Ye's situation. How could she not notice such obvious signs of Lu Yueme using her divine sense to attack? That's right. Lu Yueme is a 7th order spirit sea realm cultivator. Not to mention that this kid is only a 3rd order true lake realm cultivator. Even if this old master was a 9th order spirit sea realm cultivator, If Lu Yueme targeted him, his soul would be shattered and he would never wake up. You mean he'll be in a coma forever? Even if he really woke up, the damage to his soul would be irreparable. When the time came, he would be muddle-headed and his actions would be sluggish. The great era of rebirth. Is there any way to cure him? Lin Yu frowned. Old Yu shook his head. This old master is powerless. Also, senior should know what kind of soul injury is. This kind of injury is basically untreatable except for a few rare treasures. Lin Yu was silent for a moment before sighing, "What a pity." It was a pity that such an outstanding talent was lost. She originally thought that he was a rising star and was certain that he could compete with Haotian Alliance's Lu Iya. However, she did not expect that he would suffer such a disaster. His spirit was injured. Not to mention that he might never wake up. Even if he woke up, he would not have a bright future. She originally wanted to take this Li Tai Bai into her sect and cultivate him. She looked up at him. Old Yu smiled slightly. This old master is a medical cultivator from Dark Moon Forest Pass. You were seriously injured before, and this old master has been treating you these days. Lu Yi showed a look of understanding. Just as he was about to speak, his expression suddenly turned ferocious, as if he was suffering great pain. Seeing this, Old Yu immediately said, "Little friend, don't be impatient. Your soul is injured, and it's not good for you to think too much. You need to calm down and recuperate." Sure enough, as he had speculated before, even if Li Tai Bai was lucky enough to wake up, his mind was muddled. Although there were no signs of dementia for the time being, the aftereffects of soul injury were obviously not easy to bear. But in the end, his life was saved, which was a blessing in disguise. After checking Lu Yi a little, Old Yu left. A moment later, in Lin Yu's bedroom, Old Yu reported Lu Ye's current situation. Lin Yu sat by the bed and listened quietly. There was a person lying on the bed, and it was Tong Shuyao. Just as Lu Yi had guessed, Tong Shuyao was seriously injured, but her injuries were much lighter than Lu Ye's. After being treated by the medical cultivators of Dark Moon Forest Pass, she was already fine. But her physique was not as good as Lu Ye's, so her recovery was slower. At this moment, Tong Shuyao was in a deep sleep. After Old Yu finished, Lin Yu said, "According to Old Yu, does Li Tai Bai still have a chance to advance to Divine Sea?" Old Yu shook his head slowly, "Unless he meets a good opportunity. Otherwise, not to mention advancing to Divine Sea, in his current state, it would be difficult for him to maintain his normal cultivation." Just now, while he was talking to Lu Yi, Lu Ye's headache had acted up several times, and each time, he looked like he was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. How could he cultivate? But how difficult would it be to meet a good opportunity? In other words, Li Tai Bai would probably be stuck at third-order True Lake Realm for the rest of his life, unable to advance any further. Moreover, he would definitely be tortured in the future, living a life worse than death. Does he know? Lin Yu asked again. This old man has already explained it to him. Old Yu replied. "You can leave." Lin Yu waved her hand helplessly, sighing in her heart. She did not know how to deal with Li Tai Bai. If it was an ordinary cultivator, she could settle him at will, even leaving him in Dark Moon Forest Pass would not be a problem. But Tong Shuyao was obviously in love with Li Tai Bai, and this martial niece of hers was not clear about Li Tai Bai's situation. If she knew, who knew how sad she would be? There was also Zhang Kuan's attitude. In the past few days, Zhang Kunming had wanted to blame Li Tai Bai. He felt that the Dark Moon Forest Pass had suffered such a calamity because Li Tai Bai killed Tan Shu. He did not even oppose Tong Shuyao's feelings for him, but now, it seemed that all his previous plans were unnecessary. In the 9 continents, there had been many monstrous geniuses since ancient times, but they could not mature and would only appear once. Take her for example. Among the cultivators of the same generation, there were many who were more talented than her. She used to look up to them, but now? Those people had all turned into dust, but she had a smooth cultivation. Now, she was a 6th-order Divine Sea Realm cultivator and sat on the throne of Dark Moon Forest Pass Little Pass Master. She had seen many things, so although Lin Yu felt sorry, she did not feel too much. Without giving any more orders, Lin Yu quickly left. Sensing Lin Yu's attitude, Elder Yu no longer cared as much about Lu Ye's treatment as before. It wasn't that he was taking advantage of the situation, but that he felt that with Li Taibai's talent, it would be better for him to die after encountering such a disaster. At the very least, he would be able to retain the glory he had when he was alive. People would remember the battle where he killed Tan Shu. The devastation after the battle slowly calmed down. A few days later, when Old Yu came once a day to check on Lu Ye's injuries, he found that he had woken up at some point. Lu Ye was sitting on the bed in a daze. He could not help but be surprised. "You're awake?" Lu Ye did not respond. After a while, he seemed to realize the reason for Old Yu's arrival. Otherwise, the two passes had not fought for many years. So many 10,000 Demons Ridge cultivators had died in battle. He clicked to download the best book-chasing app. Many readers used it to read books aloud. Chapter 946. In Dark Moon Forest Pass, she, Lin Yu, was just the little pass master while Zhang Kun was the great pass master. Although Zhang Kun's accusation wasn't very reasonable since the two camps had been fighting for so many years and it had always been you killing me, if she really wanted to investigate this matter, the root of the problem really lay with Li Taibai. As this thought flashed across her mind, she made up her mind, but the time wasn't right, so she decided to put it aside for the time being. 2 days later, Old Yu examined Lu Yi and said, "Little friend's physique is strong and his physical injuries are no longer a problem, but this old master is powerless to heal the damage to his soul. In the future, little friend should focus on recuperating, perhaps there will be a day when he recovers." Of course, these were words of comfort as Old Yu himself didn't believe that Li Taibai's soul could recover. "Many thanks, Old Yu." Lu Yi thanked him and watched Old Yu leave, only withdrawing his gaze after a long time. It was time to move on to the next step of the plan. In the end, he was Lu Yi of Grand Heaven Alliance, not Li Taibai of Myriad Demon Ridge. He had come to Dark Moon Forest Pass by chance, but he couldn't stay here forever. He had planned to find an opportunity to leave before, but the time just wasn't right. The breakthrough of Shocking Waves Lake Pass and Lu Yueme's intervention had presented him with an opportunity. A severely damaged soul third-order true Lake Realm cultivator with no future to speak of? Presumably, Lin Yu wouldn't refuse to let him go. Having made up his mind, Lu Yi walked out of his room and came to Lin Yu's bedchamber, where he was quickly summoned. After chatting for a while, Lin Yu asked about Lu Ye's current injuries, to which Lu Yi answered truthfully, but what made him feel a little strange was that Lin Yu's attitude was a little strange. As for what was strange, he couldn't say. "Mistress, this humble servant has come here to resign," Lu Yi stated his intentions. "Resign?" Lin Yu was a little surprised. Lu Yi nodded and said, "Old Yu said that the damage to my soul is difficult to heal and that it requires a great opportunity. This humble servant wants to leave here and walk around. Perhaps he will encounter some opportunities." Lin Yu nodded lightly, understanding Lu Ye's plan. There was no reason to stop him, because she had already planned to transfer Lu Yi away from Dark Moon Forest Pass, so that her martial nephew wouldn't be sad to see Lu Ye's condition after he recovered. She also wouldn't let Li Taibai, who had no future, ruin her martial nephew's future. However, she didn't expect that before she even mentioned this matter to Lu Yi would resign himself. It could be said that this was exactly what she wanted. "Have you decided?" Lin Yu asked. Lu Yi did not respond. Instead, he stared at a certain spot in a daze. Lin Yu followed his gaze but didn't discover anything. She couldn't help but sigh lightly in her heart. She knew that this was what Elder Yu said, the symptoms of being muddle-headed after the soul was injured. In such a state, there was no way for him to concentrate, so it was naturally difficult for him to maintain his cultivation. After a long while, Lu Yi seemed to come back to his senses. He rubbed his forehead and said, "Darren, please forgive me. I was lost in thought for a moment." "What did Darren ask just now?" Lin Yu said helplessly, "You've decided to leave?" "Yes, please allow me, Darren." "Since you've decided, I won't stop you, but there's something I need your help with." "My lord, please speak." "You more or less understand Yao Er's feelings for you, And I can also see that you don't have any feelings for Yao. So after you leave, I will tell Yao that you have already died in battle, and that you don't need to contact Yao anymore in the future. Have you two exchanged battle imprints? Never. Lu Yi shook his head. Of course, he wouldn't take the initiative to exchange imprints with Tong Shuyao. Tong Shuyao was probably too embarrassed to mention this before, so there was no way for them to contact each other. Tong Shuyao also couldn't rely on the imprint to determine whether he was dead or alive. That's good. I hope you can promise me this. You're a smart one. Lin Yu looked at Lu Yi with gratification. When are you going to leave? If Darren agrees, I'll leave now. All right. Lin Yu nodded and took out a storage bag. Take these things. They should be useful in the future. If one day you recover from your injuries, you can come to me. Thank you, Darren. Lu Yi reached out and took the storage bag. Then I'll take my leave. Walking out of Lin Yu's bedroom, Lu Yi didn't stop. He urged his spiritual power to soar into the sky and left the dark moon forest pass. By the window, Lin Yu looked in the direction Lu Yi left. Her expression was slightly complicated, but in the end, she sighed. After leaving the dark moon forest pass, Lu Yi hurried along. He didn't expect that his resignation would be approved so easily. Thinking about the storage bag Lin Yu gave him, he couldn't help but have a thought. Lin Yu probably also wanted him to leave the dark moon forest pass, but she didn't have time to tell him. Otherwise, why would she have prepared a storage bag in advance? Opening the storage bag, Yang Kai checked it and found that it was filled with cultivation materials. They weren't too valuable, but it was better than nothing. Deceiving Kangxi, sure enough, Lin Yu really did want him to leave the dark moon forest pass. Thinking about it from her perspective, a third-order true lake realm cultivator with no future was naturally not worthy of her attention. Moreover, this person was still remembered by one of her juniors, so she couldn't tolerate him. This was exactly what Lu Yi wanted. Along the way, he would occasionally put on a confused expression and pretend to have a splitting headache. These were all symptoms of his soul being damaged. Only when he entered Liyuan did Lu Yi find a secluded place to rest. Next, he had to find a way to return to the Ash Flame Mountain Pass. Originally, he should have returned after leaving the Sword Artifact Sect's sealed world, but he was delayed for so many days. Thought Moon Immortal had sent him several messages asking about his situation, but Lu Yi found Yu Lake and took her there. If he didn't return to the Ash Flame Mountain Pass, Thought Moon Immortal would probably come looking for him. When he came, he had Ying Wuji as his guide, so he flew all the way here quickly. However, it wouldn't be so smooth for him to return. After thinking about it, Lu Yi raised his hand and tapped on his battlefield mark, sending out a message, shouting, "Are you still alive?" Thought Moon Immortal took Ying Wuji away, so Lu Yi didn't know what happened after that. However, Ying Wuji's battlefield mark was still there, which meant that he wasn't dead. In the Lonely Mountain Pass, Ying Wuji, who was recuperating in his residence, checked the message and his eyes twitched, shouting. Even Lu Yi had started to call him that. If people who didn't know the truth knew about it, they would probably think that there was some unspeakable relationship between them. He immediately replied, "I'm seriously injured. Don't disturb me." He couldn't have anything to do with Lu Yi anymore. Otherwise, it would only get worse. Moreover, he really couldn't stay in Lonely Mountain Pass any longer. He had to find a way to get out of here as soon as possible. "How did you get hurt?" Lu Yi was surprised. "You already know the answer. Why don't you ask your junior sister Shui Xian?" Thinking back to what had happened that day, Ying Wuji was furious. After leaving the Sword Instrument Sect's secret realm, Nian Yu Xian had carried him away and left. Naturally, they had encountered many Divine Sea Realm cultivators from the myriad Devil Ridge. How could Ying Wuji get involved in a battle of this level? He had silently endured the aftermath of the battle. He was already lucky to have survived. His injuries weren't any worse than Lu Ye's. Fortunately, the Thought Moon Immortal didn't really want to kill him. When she sensed that he was seriously injured, she threw him away, allowing him to keep his life. "Then you should recuperate. We'll meet again if we have the chance." Scram. Lu Yi thought for a moment after ending the transmission with Ying Wuji. He originally wanted to ask Ying Wuji to take him there again, but now that Wuxia was seriously injured, he couldn't borrow any strength. With Li Taibai's identity, he couldn't go to the Tsangyen Mountain Pass openly. In that case, he could only sneak back to the Tsangyen Mountain Pass himself. It wasn't hard, it just took a bit more time. Still maintaining Li Taibai's appearance, Lu Yi used the Stealth Spirit Rune to buff himself and rush towards the Tsangyen Mountain Pass. This way, even if he was discovered, he could use Li Taibai's identity to get away. He hid during the day and came out at night. It was scary but not dangerous. After all, not every place was as busy as the Li Plains. The front line of the battle between the two factions was vast. Even if there were teams patrolling in all directions, they couldn't take care of everything. It took nearly 2 days before he arrived at the Tsangyen Mountain Pass. Only then did Lu Yi reveal himself. He put away the sword gourd and the sword at his waist, changed the color of the Red Dragon battle suit to black, and dispersed the Thousand Faces spirit rune that had been maintained for many days. Grand Sky Alliance's Lu Yi had returned. He took out Hupe from his spirit beast pouch. He immediately came out to take a breather and said, "Lu Yi, where did you go again? Why didn't you let us out for so long?" Lu Yi then told them about his previous experience. Hupe's eyes widened and he was speechless. While the spirit and tiger were secretly worried, they also wished they could fight side by side with Lu Yi. However, many people knew that Hupe was Lu Yi's pet beast from the Jade Blood sect. Hupe was also a very prominent symbol of his. So when he disguised himself as Li Taibai of the Thousand Demons Ridge, Hupe couldn't appear. That Lu Yueme is so evil. If I have the chance in the future, I'll definitely take revenge. He was indignant. Lu Yi was quite calm. From her standpoint, it's normal for her to want to kill me. However, using public resources for private purposes is taboo for those in power. I don't know if Grand Sky City knows about this. Is third senior brother's situation over there very bad? It's not good. If there's a chance, let's go take a look together. But Yi couldn't help but nod. Yi had a good impression of this third senior brother whom she had never met before. After all, he had sorted out all of his saber cultivation experience and handed it over to Lu Yi without hiding anything. He also knew about this. While they were talking, Lu Yi suddenly felt something and turned his head to look in a direction. He saw a stream of light rushing towards him. Behind this stream of light, there were several figures chasing after it. Lu Yi focused his vision and looked at the stream of light in front. He couldn't help but be stunned because he found that the person who came was actually someone he knew. Moreover, he had met her not long ago. The other party obviously also noticed him and couldn't help but be overjoyed. Just as she was about to call for help, her beautiful face turned pale. It was because Lu Yi had actually pulled out the long saber at his waist. His figure was like lightning as he welcomed her and slashed down. She clicked to download the best book-chasing app. Many readers used this to read books aloud. Chapter 947. It was unknown what had happened to this person. She was already injured and her clothes were tattered, making her look extremely miserable. While running away, her body was exposed. Now that she was suddenly attacked by Lu Yi, she instinctively pushed her spirit energy to protect her body. The long saber slashed down, but was blocked by the spirit energy on the surface of her body. However, the unstoppable force could not be dispelled. With a cry of surprise, her body involuntarily fell down. Lu Yi followed closely behind with his saber. From afar, it looked as if his saber was pressing down on the other party. Landing on the ground in a sorry state, the woman was dizzy. In any case, she had the physique of a true Lake Realm cultivator. Although the pain was unbearable, she was not seriously injured. Before she could get up, a black saber was placed on her neck. Looking up along the long saber, he met Lu Yi's gaze that was looking down. Feeling the sharpness of the saber, her body could not help but stiffen. Shwa shwa shwa, several figures landed not far away. They were the people who had chased after the woman. They seemed to have experienced a great battle and were covered in injuries. The leader of the group was a young man with a vigorous aura. He was a true Lake Realm 6th Order cultivator. Seeing the situation, he could not help but grin. "Good job, fellow Taoist. Many thanks. Although with their cultivation, they could have captured the woman sooner or later, with Lu Ye's help, it was naturally less troublesome. Saying so, he took a step forward and stretched out his hand to grab the woman. The other party's impolite attitude stunned Lu Yi. Although he could not figure out what had happened in a short time, he could guess. Otherwise, he would have acted decisively just now. The mountain coiling saber was still placed on the man's slender white neck, not daring him to make any rash movements. However, no sword light flashed and cut through the void. The young man stopped and looked at the spirit boat in his hand. Frowning, he asked, "Fellow Taoist, what are you doing?" The people in front of me all looked at the spirit boat with kind expressions, all of them secretly urging their spirit energy. "What is he doing?" The spirit boat answered with a question. The young man said matter-of-factly, "Take him." Ling Zhou looked at me blankly. "He's in your hands. What does he want?" The young man couldn't help but frown. This man is one of Qin Kitten's men. Just now, when you were fighting, his companions were all killed, and you were the only one who escaped. Since you've fallen into the hands of my fellow Taoist, I would like to ask my fellow Taoist to return you to you. You can bring him back and interrogate him. Perhaps you'll be able to obtain some useless information. You're the one who brought him here. You should be the one to interrogate him. I'm sorry for troubling you guys. The young man raised his eyebrows, clearly misunderstanding something. Fellow Taoist, are you trying to steal the credit from all of you? The credit is in your hands. He's the one who wants to steal your credit. Spirit Boat looked at me blankly. The young man looked over, and the muscles at the corner of his eyes twitched slightly. His spirit force was filled with a safe aura. After a long time, he took a deep breath and asked, "What's your name?" "Myriad Demon's Ridge, Spirit Boat." "Myriad Devil's Ridge?" The young man frowned slightly. Myriad Devil's Ridge's leader was Missing Moon Immortal. This was a weakling who could single-handedly suppress an entire ridge. Who in the War Continent Guards knew about this? Spirit Boat said that he was from Myriad Devil's Ridge so that I wouldn't be fearful. However, I wasn't willing to just go in like that. Spirit Boat continued, "This place is already under your Wang Liangjin Ridge's jurisdiction. Since he's in your hands, you should deal with him. Everyone, please go in." There was something wrong with his words. The area outside was indeed under Myriad Devil's Ridge's jurisdiction. As someone from Myriad Devil's Ridge, if Spirit Boat wanted to interfere, what could we say? The young man hesitated for a while before gritting his teeth. "Since that's the case, I'll leave this person to him." I waved my hand and called out to the others, "You guys leave." After a while, several figures charged into the sky. Looking at the direction they were heading, it seemed like they were heading towards Clear Moon Cave. It was only when the figures of those people disappeared that the man, who had been sitting on the ground and unable to move, finally heaved a long sigh of relief. His entire being seemed to have been sucked dry. There were no tears at the corners of his eyes as he looked pitifully at the spirit boat. "Did he want to kill you?" Wang Liang kept his blade and Dan Dan said, "If he wanted to kill him, he would have died long ago. With my strength, that blade could have taken that man's life. The reason he was still alive was because Spirit Boat showed mercy. That was because that man was Qin Chuden." Qin Chuden smiled through his tears. "I knew that he would kill you." Spirit Boat looked at you and took out a piece of clothing from his storage bag. He took out a piece of clothing and threw it under your body, covering some of your exposed body. "What's going on?" Qin Chuden had a fearful look on his face. "You heard it just now. You were patrolling the area with a few people. It was the Xian who encountered our team. We had a small battle and everyone else died. You're the only one left alive. The point guard is here." Spirit Boat frowned. "Because he is a man? That makes sense. The others are all dead, only Qin Chuden is still alive, and your cultivation level is so low. You were able to survive only because you are a male cultivator with a wrong figure and appearance." Thinking about Qin Chuden's ragged clothes, the Spirit Boat vaguely understood something. "Yes." Qin Chuden nodded, his face full of fear. For some male cultivators, there were some things that were more terrifying than death. So you had already made up your mind just now. If Spirit Boat handed you over to these people, you would immediately commit suicide and would definitely struggle at death's door. Fortunately, Wang Liang didn't do that. Only when you first met him did the spirit boat stab you, giving you a fright. At that time, you were flustered and your mind was in chaos. You didn't think too much. Now that you think about it, Spirit Boat's approach was the most correct response. They were on the same side. When Spirit Boat saw you, he should have fought with you. He should have been able to treat you coldly. If that was the case, the secret that the two of you didn't know each other would be exposed to these people. In that case, the moment Spirit Boat saw you, he had already seen through many things and thought of a countermeasure. How meticulous his thinking was and how fast his reaction was. Chen Chudan secretly rejoiced. Spirit Boat was silent for a moment. He once again recalled the sect master's teachings. There were good and evil in the law, and there were good and evil in people. Two small factions were enemies. It was normal for them to attack and kill each other. However, the name of Haotian Alliance did not necessarily represent darkness. Above the name that seemed to represent justice, there were many shadows. In these shadows, there were many disagreements and filth surging in the shadows. Lu Ye, thank you for that. Chen Chudan sincerely thanked him. If he had coincidentally met Spirit Boat, he would have died today. Yes, let's go. Spirit Boat called out and summoned his Lu Ye. Chen Chudan was dumbfounded. Go where? Spirit Boat looked at him as if it was natural. He's your captive. Naturally, he has to follow you back to Wanmo Ridge. Chen Chudan's eyes widened. He's planning to let you go? How did he become a captive? He had just left the wolf's den and entered the tiger's mouth. Wang Liangjin felt the world spinning. Stop talking nonsense. Slow down. Spirit Boat stood under his Lu Ye and called out. Even if he wanted to let him go, he could do so immediately. Otherwise, once the news was leaked, he would be accused of having secret relations with the enemy. Wang Liang had always been cautious. How could he make such a mistake? Bring him back and hand him over to Thought Moon Immortal. Even if Chen Chudan ran away, Thought Moon Immortal would be there to take care of it. Chen Chudan naturally wanted to learn Spirit Boat's plan. Seeing that Spirit Boat was really going to capture him, he was annoyed. He really has a heart of stone. To think that he helped him last time. Although he earned 8 drops of soul-cleansing water, he did not have any relationship with him. Why would he want to capture him? Stop talking nonsense. Spirit Boat pulled out half of his Panshan saber. Chen Chudan decisively jumped off his Lu Ye. Slowly, he returned to the 10,000 Devil's Ridge. Just as he returned, Thought Moon Immortal appeared behind him. She looked at him from head to toe and confirmed that he was missing an arm or a leg. Only then could she come up. Greetings. Spirit Boat cupped his fists and bowed. Thank you for your concern. I'm sorry. It's good that you're back. Thought Moon Immortal replied calmly. Suddenly, she looked sharply at the pitiful Wang Liangjin who was standing in front of Spirit Boat. She saw that he was wearing bright clothes. His inner and outer clothes did not seem to be tattered. Her eyes narrowed slightly. For you, Spirit Boat replied. You are? For you. Spirit Boat only knows that you are called Chen Chudan, but that is obviously your real name. Chen Chudan and Yi Ba were both pseudonyms. I know this very well. He turned around and gave Chen Chudan a look. That is your family's Thought Moon Immortal. I asked him a question and he answered truthfully. Chen Chudan trembled as he walked out from Spirit Boat. He raised his head and dared to look at Thought Moon Immortal. Because in his knowledge, the 10,000 Devil's Ridge's Thought Moon Immortal was an extremely terrifying person. Even his own Ridge's lord, Wan Zhanggang, was afraid of him. He bowed respectfully. His voice was still trembling. Greetings, Junior from Ashen Flame Mountain. Spirit Boat revealed a look of understanding. He finally knew that man's name. He hasn't returned recently. Is it because of you? The Thought Moon Immortal asked. Recently, the Spirit Boat has been returning constantly. You have also sent a few messages to ask about the situation. The Spirit Boat has always said nothing. The main reason is that it's easy to say. It only says that it has nothing to do and will return in the future. However, this caused Thought Moon Immortal to misunderstand. That's not the case. Wang Liangjin hurriedly replied. I don't know anything. You are not from Grand Heaven Alliance. You are from Chen Kitten's lonely mountain city. Thought Moon Immortal was confused. Then how did they, in your eyes, they are my captives? Spirit Boat replied firmly, causing Ashen Flame Mountain to look at him resentfully. Thought Moon Immortal laughed. Did you capture them on the way back? You are just a nobody. How could you capture them on the way back? Ashen Flame Mountain was filled with sorrow. The Spirit Boat then narrated what happened just now in a complicated way. Nian Yuxian's pretty face brightened up as she listened. As a male cultivator, you can naturally see that other male cultivators have encountered the same thing. Although Wang Liang saved us at Sangyan Mountain and saved us from misfortune, these people must have done such evil things only once. There must be no other male cultivators who have encountered our evil schemes. Enemies could be beaten or killed, but such humiliation would naturally be despised by others. She clicked and downloaded the best book-chasing app. Many readers use this to read books aloud. Chapter 948. Then what are you going to do with her? Thought Moon Immortal asked. Lu Yi glanced at Chen Chuden and cupped his fists. Master, please make the decision. At the same time, he used his divine sense to send a message. Master, I have known her since the Cloud River battlefield. Last time, I asked her to send a message to Ingwuji. Thought Moon Immortal understood and nodded slightly. She said to Chen Chuden, I need a servant girl. You will follow me from now on. Chen Chudan wanted to cry, but she didn't dare to disobey. She could only answer with a yes, and comfort herself. So be it. Working for such a famous warrior in the Spirit Sea realm was not a disgrace to her. It was better than being captured alive by those people. Thought Moon Immortal looked at Lu Yi. Go and rest. Come find me tomorrow. I have something to tell you. Yes, I will take my leave. After Lu Yi left, Nian Yu Immortal's figure also disappeared in a flash, leaving Chen Chudan standing there alone. She couldn't help but feel a little dazed. For a moment, she didn't know where to go or what to do. After thinking for a while, she chased after Lu Yi. Soon, she arrived at Lu Ye's bamboo house. She knocked on the door. Lu Ye, what should I do now? But there was no response. After knocking for a while, the door opened. Lu Yi walked past her with his saber, as if he couldn't see her at all. Chen Chudan was furious. She stood in front of Lu Yi and said, Are you deaf? I am talking to you. Lu Yi stood there and thought for a while. Then he seemed to remember something. He turned around and went back to the bamboo house, closing the door with a bang. Chen Chudan was dumbfounded. She felt that Lu Ye was a bad guy. He had captured her and now he didn't care about her at all. He even pretended not to see her. She had even sent him a message and brought him something last time. Ingwuji was right. Nothing good would happen to anyone who interacted with him. The more she thought about it, the more aggrieved she felt. He couldn't see her. Suddenly, an idea flashed through her mind. Chen Chuden's heart skipped a beat. She vaguely realized something. Inside the bamboo house, Lu Yi sat cross-legged and replied to Cheng Xiu's message. Cheng Xiu was the person in charge of handing over the exploding fire spirit stones to Lu Yi from the law department. Previously, he would come to the vicissitude Flame Mountain Pass every 7 days to collect the exploding fire spirit stones that Lu Yi had made. However, Lu Yi thought it was too troublesome, so she asked him to report to Qian Wudong and change the visit from once every 7 days to once every month. Gan Wudong also agreed. As a result, Lu Yi had been wandering outside for the past 2 months, so he naturally couldn't hand over the explosive fire spirit stones. During this time, Cheng Xiu had sent him more than once to ask about the situation. Lu Yi only asked him to continue waiting. Now that they had finally returned to the Ashen Flame Mountain Pass, it was time to hand over the exploding fire spirit stones. After all, this was related to the acquisition of battle merits. They agreed to collect the goods the next day. Cheng Xiu readily agreed. In fact, Lu Ye also wanted to ask how the explosive fire spirit rock he refined ended up at the Startling Waves Lake Pass. However, it wasn't appropriate for him to ask. After all, as Lu Yi, he shouldn't have known about the situation at the startling waves lake pass so quickly. After the discussion was settled, Lu Yi used his divine sense to scan the outside. However, Chen Chuden was nowhere to be found. There was no trace of her within a 1-mile radius. She's not too stupid, Lu Yi muttered to himself. They had some friendship, and he had even asked her for help last time. Lu Yi couldn't make things too difficult for Chen Chuden. However, when he rescued her from the Grand Heaven Alliance cultivators, he couldn't immediately let her go. He could only bring her back to the Ashen Flame Mountain Pass. Now that she was lost at the Ashen Flame Mountain Pass, it had nothing to do with him. He still had Jianghu Immortal to take care of. He didn't cultivate. He had already agreed to collect the goods the next day with Cheng Xiu. However, he didn't even have a single explosive fire spirit stone on hand. He could only work overtime today to refine them. This wasn't difficult for him. Refining explosive fire spirit stones was something he could do with a few hands. 2 months' worth of explosive fire spirit stones meant 60,000 explosive fire spirit stones. This would bring Lu Yi a total of 300,000 battle merits. This didn't even include the extra gains he had made with Gan Wudong. The night passed uneventfully. The next day, when Cheng Xiu arrived at the Ashen Flame Mountain Pass as promised, Lu Yi had already prepared the 60,000 explosive fire spirit stones. After the exchange, Cheng Xiu left in satisfaction. Lu Yi didn't have time to rest. He immediately rushed to Jianghu Immortal's residence. Lu Yi stepped into the bamboo house. After receiving permission, he sat down. The woman you brought back yesterday has safely returned to the Lonely Mountain Pass, Jianghu Immortal said. Lu Yi was stunned for a moment before he realized that Jianghu Immortal must have secretly escorted her. Otherwise, she wouldn't know so much. He immediately cupped his fists. Thank you, my lord. Also, I'm going into seclusion. Jianghu Immortal spoke again. Don't worry, my lord. I will do my best to look after the pass. Jianghu Immortal shook her head. This seclusion may take some time. If a Divine Sea Realm cultivator like her said that it would take some time, then it definitely wouldn't be short. It would most likely be calculated in years. Lu Yi was deep in thought. My lord, you've gained a lot in the Sword Instrument Sect's secret realm. Jianghu Immortal nodded. In the Sword Mountain, every flying sword contains a remnant consciousness of the Sword Instrument Sect's ancestors. There are many exquisite sword principles. I've gained a lot from climbing the Sword Mountain. I need to study them well. Also, she took out the willow catkin short sword. I need to completely refine this treasure. The willow catkin short sword was an existence that surpassed a spirit treasure. Although Jianghu Immortal had refined it for a while, she hadn't fully refined it. According to her own estimation, it would take a long time to completely refine the willow catkin. My lord, you mean? Lu Yi vaguely understood. If Jianghu Immortal was only in seclusion for 10 days, half a month, or even a month or two, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, if it was too long, she would have to find a safe and secure place. Therefore, she would have to leave the Ashen Flame Mountain Pass. Once she left, there would be no one to guard this place. Lu Yi, a third-order true Lake Realm cultivator, wouldn't be able to do anything. It would be dangerous for him to stay here alone. Once the people from Myriad Demon Ridge knew about the situation here, they would send a large number of troops to invade, even if it was for the sake of Lu Yi from the Blue Blood sect. I've already reported this matter to Grand Sky City. In a few days, there will be other Divine Sea Realm cultivators here to take over. At the same time, a large number of state guards will be mobilized. In the future, the Ashen Flame Mountain Pass will be the same as the other mountain passes. The uniqueness of the Ashen Flame Mountain Pass lay in Jianghu Immortal. One person guarding an entire mountain pass made her famous in the entire 9 provinces. However, without Jianghu Immortal, the Ashen Flame Mountain Pass would be no different from the other mountain passes. I'll give you 3 choices. Jianghu Immortal looked at Lu Yi. First, stay in the Ashen Flame Mountain Pass. Now that you have the rank of Commandant, your strength isn't weak. No matter which Divine Sea Realm cultivator comes, they won't underestimate you. Of course, because of your relationship with the Blue Blood sect, they might treat you as an enemy. If that's the case, your future days won't be easy. Second, if there's a mountain pass you want to go to, I'll help you transfer it. What about the third one? Lu Yi asked. Jianghu Immortal's eyes shone. The head of the law department, Qian Wudong, has been asking me for you. He wanted to transfer you to the law department, but I ignored him. If you don't want to go to the mountain pass, you can go to the law department. Although Qian Wudong is sometimes unreliable, at least you don't have to worry about him targeting you. Moreover, you seem to have made some deals with him before. If you really go to the law department, you will be valued. I understand. Lu Yi nodded. Your Excellency, what do you suggest? Jianghu Immortal glanced at him and said slowly, you must be very clear about the uniqueness of the Blue Blood sect. In the War Province, the Blue Blood sect has many friends, but also many enemies. No matter which mountain pass you go to, it's hard to guarantee that you won't be targeted. Because basically every mountain pass has at least 2 mountain pass masters, and above the mountain pass masters are the mountain pass masters. The mountain pass masters also have friends. If someone insists on making things difficult for you, it's hard for you to guard against it. The law department is different. It has a lot of power and is a very powerful organization. Qian Wudong is a good person and has always been protective of his own people. He values you. If you work under him, you will definitely be able to obtain important things in the future. That's why Your Excellency suggested that I go to the law department. This is just my personal suggestion. It's up to you whether you want to go or not. There's no need to rush to give me an answer. Just give me an answer in 3 days. Before I go into seclusion, I'll arrange everything for you. I understand. Thank you for your consideration. Jianghu Immortal's eyes shone with a complicated light. You've helped me a lot during this time. It's what I should do. Thinking back, Lu Yi had only been in the Vicissitude Mountain Pass for a few months, but many things had happened in these few months that were more exciting than when she had been alone for decades. By the way, Your Excellency, this is for you. Lu Yi took out a jade slip. This is... Jianghu Immortal looked at him suspiciously. A copy of the Sword Dao Quintessence of the Sword Tool Sect, Lu Yi explained. It should be useful for you. Before the Sword Tool Sect's secret realm collapsed, Kong Kong had given the Sword Gourd, the sect master's keepsake, to Lu Yi. At the same time, he had also given him a jade slip that recorded the Sword Tool Sect's essence of forging and the Sword Dao Quintessence. Jianghu Immortal had no use for the essence of forging, but the Sword Dao Quintessence was suitable for her. Yesterday, Lu Yi had already divided the contents of the jade slip into 2 parts and made a few copies with his divine perception. Jianghu Immortal nodded. Thank you. Then I'll take my leave. After walking out of Jianghu Immortal's bamboo house and returning to his residence, Lu Yi sat down and pondered. Yi saw this and asked, what happened? Our sect master will be in seclusion for a long time. Lu Yi told her the 3 choices he had obtained from Jianghu Immortal. Yi asked, then which one do you choose? Actually, I want to go to the Startling Waves Lake Pass. Lu Ye's words were shocking. Third Senior Marshal Brother's situation was worrying. If he could go to the Startling Waves Lake Pass, he could take care of Third Senior Marshal Brother. However, if he really went, there would be a big problem. His identity as a disciple of the Jade Blood sect would definitely attract a lot of attention and suppression. Lu Yi clicked and downloaded the best book-chasing app. Many readers used it to read books aloud. Chapter 949. The reason why Third Senior Brother Xiao Xing he suffered so much injustice over there, and Tan Shu even tried to kill him with a borrowed knife in public, was because of his connection to the Blue Blood sect. Xiao Xing he was now a disciple of Azure Emperor City, but his situation over there was so worrying. If Lu Yi, an orthodox disciple of the Blue Blood sect, went to the Shocking Waves Lake Pass, he would definitely be suppressed. Therefore, even if he wanted to go to the Shocking Waves Lake Pass, he didn't know if he would be able to go. Staying in the Vicissitude Flame Mountain Pass was not advisable. Just as the Thought Moon Immortal had said, the Blue Blood sect had many friends and enemies in the military province. If the Spirit Sea Realm warrior who came here had a grudge against the headmaster, he would not have an easy time in the future. Therefore, although Thought Moon Immortal gave him 3 choices, there was only one. Go to the Law Division and serve under Gan Wudong. Fortunately, this was not unexpected. Lu Yi had cooperated with the A3 squad last time and performed well. Coupled with the transaction of the exploding fire spirit stones, if he really went to the Law Division, Gan Wudong would not look down on him. With a decision in his heart, Lu Yi no longer thought about it. Suddenly, a movement came from the battlefield mark. Lu Yi checked and found that he had obtained the merit to refine the exploding fire spirit stones. 60,000 exploding fire spirit stones were given to him. It brought him a total of 300,000 merit points. Now, his merit points were as high as 520,000, breaking the previous record. It was easy for Lu Yi to obtain battle merits, but the consumption was also great. Not to mention the long period of time it would take to exchange for the golden spiritual stick for cultivation, there were many treasures in the War Merit Pavilion that caught Lu Ye's eye. All of these would require a large amount of battle merits. After breaking through to the Third Order True Lake Realm, Lu Yi felt that his cultivation speed was too fast, so he didn't cultivate diligently for the past 2 months. He was afraid that his foundation would be unstable. Now that he had so many battle achievements in hand and had more than 2 months of accumulation, it was time for him to raise his cultivation. If he really wanted to go to the Law Division in the future, the higher his cultivation, the better. Moreover, he was now at the Third Order True Lake Realm, and above that was the Fourth Order True Lake Realm. In the 4 realms of cultivators, each great realm had a threshold of 4 or 7. The 4th Order and 7th Order cultivators could increase their strength significantly. This was also the reason why Lu Ye's killing of Tan Shu, a True Lake Realm 7th Order True Lake Realm cultivator, had caused so much commotion among the cultivators on both sides. Even when he defeated the sword cultivator Zhang Yulin, who was at the 6th Order True Lake Realm, no one would have thought that he would be able to defeat Tan Shu. In the end, not only did he win, he even killed Tan Shu in an instant. Lu Yi went to the Tianji Hall and connected to the War Merit Pavilion. As usual, he fed the 2 flood dragons. He exchanged for 20 golden spirit sticks in one go. If other people were to see such a heroic way of doing things, they would most likely be shocked. The cultivators of the 9 regions had never bought so many golden spirit sticks at once from the Tianji treasure house. Most of them used 1 stick to buy 1 stick. After all, it was not easy to obtain battle merits. He spent the next few days cultivating. 3 days later, Lu Yi once again arrived at Missing Moon Immortal's bamboo house. "Have you made up your mind?" Thought Moon Immortal asked. "Yes, this humble servant is willing to join the Law Division. Please recommend me, sir." This result was expected, so Missing Moon Immortal wasn't too surprised. As for the recommendation, there was no need. As early as the last time Lu Yi went to Grand Sky City, Gan Wudong wanted to ask Missing Moon Immortal for him. At that time, he only felt that Lu Yi had great potential and couldn't bear to see him waste away in the Blue Flame Mountain Pass. Everything that happened later made Gan Wudong realize Lu Ye's great value, especially when it came to refining exploding fire spirit stones. It could be said that Lu Ye's role in this field was comparable to that of several Spirit Sea Realm cultivators. Lu Yi was willing to join the Law Division, so Gan Wudong couldn't ask for more. "Then you can go. I've already informed Gan Wudong." "Yes." Lu Yi replied firmly, "This humble servant wishes Sir good luck and a new high in your retreat." He respectfully left, turned around, and strode away. "Lu Yi." Missing Moon Immortal's voice came from behind. Lu Yi turned back. "What else does Sir want?" Missing Moon Immortal's red lips squirmed a few times. "Be careful. No matter what happens in the future, protecting yourself is the most important thing." Lu Yi nodded seriously. "Thank you for your concern, sir." She stomped her feet on the ground, activated her spiritual power, and shot up into the sky, turning into a red dot in an instant. Missing Moon Immortal walked to the door and looked up. She didn't look away until Lu Ye's figure disappeared from her sight. Lu Yi was gone, but she had to continue waiting. There were some procedures to be done in Great Sky City. At the very least, she had to wait until things settled down in Vicissitude Flame Mountain Pass before she could leave. The whole world seemed to be empty. Missing Moon Immortal couldn't help but frown. She had been guarding this place alone for decades and was used to this kind of loneliness. When Lu Yi was here, they didn't talk much. The entire Vicissitude Flame Mountain Pass was quiet. But after Lu Yi left, she realized that the current loneliness was not the same as the previous silence. In just a few months, her state of mind was affected. She sped all the way to Great Sky City. Lu Yi didn't expect that his days in Vicissitude Flame Mountain Pass would be so short. It seemed that he had only been there for 4 or 5 months, with 2 months in the Sword Instrument Sex sealed world. In other words, he had been in Vicissitude Flame Mountain Pass for less than 3 months. But this couldn't be helped. Missing Moon Immortal had to go into seclusion for a long time. As a third-order true Lake Realm cultivator, he wasn't qualified to guard such a big pass. He didn't know who the new higher-ups were, and he didn't know if they would make things difficult for him. Instead of waiting for such an uncertain future, it was better to walk on a stable path. At the very least, he had interacted with Qian Wudong before, and this person didn't have any ill intentions towards him. The journey was peaceful. Great Sky City was in sight. Entering the city, Lu Yi went straight to the main hall of the law department. After being notified, he entered with a sword in hand. Qian Wudong was sitting behind a table, seemingly handling official business. Seeing his arrival, he smiled and pointed to the side. "Take a seat first." Lu Yi sat down and closed his eyes to rest. After a while, someone served him tea, and a wisp of fragrance wafted into his nose. Lu Yi opened his eyes and found that the person serving the tea was the beautiful female cultivator he saw last time. Their eyes met, and Lu Yi nodded slightly to greet her. The female cultivator pursed her lips and smiled. She didn't leave, but went straight behind Qian Wudong and massaged his shoulders. Her posture was as gentle as water, and from time to time, she would lean on Qian Wudong and look at Wenshu with him. It was an intimate scene. Lu Yi took a sip of tea and turned his head to look outside. Qian Wudong wasn't a good person either. Although he didn't know who this woman was, he could roughly guess from her posture that she was probably Qian Wudong's wife or concubine, and he doted on her a lot. Otherwise, how could Qian Wudong, the head of the law department, indulge her so much in such an occasion? The woman didn't look old, but in the group of cultivators, it was impossible to tell her age from her appearance. Take Shui Yuan and Missing Moon Immortal for example. At first glance, they looked like they were in their early 20s, but in fact, they were much older than that. Therefore, even though this woman looked young, she could be dozens of years old. As for her cultivation, Lu Yi couldn't tell. She didn't use her spiritual power, so it was hard to tell. "Okay, you can leave now," Qian Wudong suddenly said. Gan Wudong suddenly said. He probably felt that he had to maintain his image as a department head in front of Lu Yi. No matter what, he and Lu Yi would be subordinates in the future. The woman pursed her lips and looked unhappy. She grabbed Qian Wudong's arm and said coquettishly, "No." Lu Yi had goosebumps all over his body. Qian Wudong comforted her and promised to see her later. Then he coaxed her to leave. The woman was quite courteous. Before she left, she didn't forget to bow to Lu Yi. After the woman left, Qian Wudong waved at Lu Yi. Lu Yi stood up and stood in front of the table. He cupped his fists and said, "Lu Yi of the Jade Blood Sect reporting for duty." Qian Wudong leaned back in his chair and looked at Lu Yi with satisfaction. "I wanted to transfer you to the law department, but Missing Moon Immortal wouldn't let you go. There was nothing I could do. Fortunately, she had some matters to attend to this time, so she entrusted you to me. It can be said that the road to happiness is strewn with setbacks." After a pause, he asked, "Do you know what happened to Nian Yuxian? She has never left the Blue Flame Mountain Pass for so many years. It is surprising that she suddenly wants to resign." Lu Yi frowned slightly. From Qian Wudong's words, he didn't know that Missing Moon Immortal was going to cultivate in seclusion. If Missing Moon Immortal didn't say anything, Lu Yi wouldn't say anything. He replied, "I don't know. I don't have much interaction with the Mountain Pass Master. She won't tell me anything." Qian Wudong nodded slightly. "That's normal. How could a divine sea realm cultivator tell a true lake realm cultivator, especially someone like Missing Moon Immortal? No matter what, you are now a member of the law department. I plan to let you focus on making explosive fire spirit stones. Do you have any objections? Yes. Lu Yi replied immediately. Qian Wudong smiled. Tell me if you have any objections. It is up to me whether I accept them or not. Making explosive fire spirit stones doesn't take much effort. I am confident that I can do it while I am on duty, so I don't need to devote myself to it. Qian Wudong understood. You mean you want to join the law enforcement hall and go out to do missions? Yes. Tell me the reason. Lu Yi pondered for a moment and said, Ever since your humble servant embarked on the path of cultivation, I have experienced the Spirit Stream battlefield and the Cloud River battlefield. However, no matter which battlefield it was still a small part of the 9 prefectures. Now that your humble servant has reached the true lake stage, I would like to experience more of the 9 prefectures. Therefore, I do not wish to be trapped in a small corner. That's reasonable. Qian Wudong rubbed his chin. Based on your cultivation and your performance last time, it's not a problem for you to join the law enforcement hall. But you have to think about it carefully. The law enforcement hall is always dangerous when carrying out missions. If you are willing to devote yourself to making bursting fire spiritual stones, your safety will be guaranteed. Chapter 950. If we cultivators blindly pursue peace and tranquility, then there is no need for us to cultivate. Your humble servant can simply stagnate at the 9th level of the Spirit Stream Heaven or the 9th level of the Cloud River Heaven, and dominate the Spirit Stream battlefield and the Cloud River battlefield. Qian Wudong nodded. What you said makes sense, but I still hope you can consider it carefully. With your efficiency in refining the explosive fire spirit rock, the battle points you get every month are enough to satisfy your cultivation needs. You don't need to go out and take risks. If you still want to join the law enforcement hall in the future, it won't be a problem. In the entire 9 states, only Lu Yi could refine the explosive fire spirit rock. Qian Wudong didn't want him to take any risks, but he also knew that this kind of thing couldn't be forced, so he couldn't order Lu Yi to do anything. Lu Yi said, I'll remember sir's concern. But I'm still very confident in improving my cultivation. Sir, you may not know this, but my cultivation aptitude is excellent. If Lu Yi wanted to work under Qian Wudong in the future, he wouldn't be able to hide the fact that he improved his cultivation. Instead of letting Qian Wudong guess that he improved too quickly, he might as well tell him now. Qian Wudong almost laughed. You don't know how you got the title of One Leaf? Sir, you've misunderstood. When I tested my talent in the Evil Moon Valley that day, I did indeed receive the title of Jie. However, something must have gone wrong during the test. Later, I tested my talent again, and the result was very different from that day. Qian Wudong was interested. What was the result? I'm very talented. I have 8 branches and 8 leaves. That's a top talent. Lu Yi said calmly. Although he didn't test his talent himself, the giant stone plate he encountered with Wuxia at the mouth of the Tsangyan volcano was probably used to test his talent. The result was indeed a top talent. Really? Qian Wudong couldn't help but be surprised. In the 9 states, there weren't many cultivators with 60 leaves or more. Basically, all the core disciples of the top sects had this kind of talent. But for those with 60 leaves and more leaves, the number of cultivators with 60 leaves decreased rapidly. As for those with 64 leaves, they were even rarer. If Lu Yi really had the aptitude of a 64-leaf cultivator, some things would make sense. Qian Wudong had always been confused. Lu Yi's cultivation speed didn't match his reputation as a one-leaf cultivator. He thought it was because he had many opportunities, but now it seemed that the opportunities were only a part of it. Lu Yi's talent was the most important factor. Otherwise, it wouldn't be enough if he only had opportunities and no talent. This humble servant remembers the last time I saw sir. This humble servant was only a first-order smelly lake cultivator, but now, this humble servant is already a third order. Lu Yi said. He slightly activated his spiritual power. If he didn't mention it, Qian Wudong wouldn't have realized it. Qian Wudong was a divine sea realm cultivator, but he wouldn't check other people's cultivation level for no reason. Until now, when Lu Ye's third-order true lake realm spirit chi fluctuations appeared, Gan Wudong was shocked. Calculating the time, it had only been 3 months, yet Lu Yi had already broken through from the first order to the third order. If one were to continue looking back, Lu Yi hadn't even reached the true lake realm when he joined the War Province Guard. In other words, in just over 4 months, he had advanced from the 9th order Cloud River realm to the 3rd order True Lake realm. Such a cultivation speed was simply terrifying. With the facts in front of him, Qian Wudong had no choice but to believe Lu Ye's words. He couldn't help but sigh. Old Tang really picked up a treasure. He had more or less heard about Lu Yi joining the Blue Blood sect. It was said that when Lu Yi was tested to have a one-leaf talent, there was no hope for him to join a sect. In the end, someone secretly instructed him to choose the Blue Blood sect as his only choice. That was how he joined the Blue Blood sect. It wasn't wrong to say that Lu Yi was picked up. All right, this king will believe you for the time being and grant your request. It just so happens that the A3 squad is still lacking a member. Since the last time you went on a mission with them, King Gongwu has been talking about you in front of me. How about you join the A3 squad? Sir, you can make the decision. Lu Yi naturally had no objections. No matter what, he had cooperated with King Gongwu and the others once and even had a drink with them, so he was somewhat familiar with them. Qian Wudong nodded slightly. In that case, you may act freely until the official order is given. Lu Yi strode away. After Lu Yi left, Qian Wudong turned his gaze to a corner of the hall and said helplessly, "Come out." In the darkness over there was a woman whose shadow was different from the shadow. It was actually the woman who served tea to Lu Yi before. She had already left, but somehow, she came back again. Even Lu Yi didn't notice her. She could fool Lu Yi, but she couldn't fool Qian Wudong, who was in the Divine Ocean realm. She didn't point it out earlier because she didn't want to. The woman revealed herself and stuck out her tongue playfully at Qian Wudong. Qian Wudong stared at her and said, "You're getting more and more out of hand." The woman walked forward and grabbed Qian Wudong's arm. Qian Wudong felt dizzy and quickly raised his hand. "That's enough. If you have something to say, just say it." Based on his understanding of the woman, he could tell that she had something to ask of him. He felt a headache coming because he couldn't say no to her every time. "I want to join the law enforcement hall too," the woman said. Qian Wudong frowned. "Why do you want to join the law enforcement hall?" "To help you." "Nonsense. Just stay by my side. It's dangerous outside." Qian Wudong glared at her. "But I can't stay by your side forever. Those with lower cultivation than me are running around everywhere. I'm already in the 7th order True Lake realm. How can I be worse than them?" "You can't say that. They have their reasons to run around everywhere. You don't have to." "Why don't I? They are cultivators and so am I. I don't care. I want to join the law enforcement hall too. Do you agree or not?" "Impossible." Qian Wudong refused immediately. Sob, sob, sob. The woman's face was suddenly covered in tears, and bean-sized tears flowed out. Qian Wudong was the head of the law enforcement hall. He was a famous divine ocean realm cultivator in the 9 states. At this moment he didn't know what to do. Just as he was about to comfort her, the woman stomped her foot and said with red eyes, "I hate you." She turned around and dashed out. Qian Wudong's hand froze in midair. He could only hear the words, "I hate you," echoing in his ears. His heart was about to break. After a while, the woman ran into the law enforcement hall crying and threw herself into the arms of the law enforcement hall's head, Auntie Fan. Fan Xiangyi was stunned. "What happened? Who bullied you? Tell Auntie Fan. Auntie Fan will teach him a lesson." "Qian Wudong bullied me." The woman looked up and said a name decisively. Fan Xiangyi was speechless. After leaving the law enforcement hall, Lu Yi looked around and suddenly felt like he was drifting. Qian Wudong told him to act freely without an official order, but he didn't know what to do. After all, the disciples of other sects had fellow disciples or elders in Grand Sky City. However, he was the only one here in the Blue Blood sect. He couldn't find anyone to talk to. After thinking about it, he decided to send a message to King Gengwu. In the future, they would be colleagues or even teammates. It would be good to contact each other in advance. King Gengwu replied quickly. The A3 squad was not in Grand Sky City. They were currently on a mission outside and would take a few days to return. He had no choice but to give up. Just as he was about to find a room to rest, the battlefield imprint suddenly vibrated. Lu Yi checked and was surprised. Because the person who sent the message was actually the sect master. This was the first time something like this had happened. Although Lu Yi had the sect master's imprint, they had never sent a message to each other. He usually contacted Shui Yuan more often, so he didn't know why the sect master suddenly sent a message. He quickly replied, "Sect master, do you have any orders?" After a while, another message came. "You're in Grand Sky City?" It was not surprising that the sect master knew about this. Shui Yuan and Nian Yuexian were close friends. Nian Yuexian must have sent a message to Shui Yuan about him leaving the Blue Flame Mountain Pass. The sect master must have heard about it from Shui Yuan. "Yes. Where are you?" Lu Yi scratched his head, but before he could reply, the sect master sent another message. "I see you." Lu Yi was stunned, but the next moment he felt someone approaching him quickly. He looked up and saw two streams of light falling from the sky and landing not far away from him. One of them was immortal-like and energetic. Who else could it be but the sect master? Lu Yi was overjoyed and quickly bowed. "Greetings, sect master." Tang Yifeng looked at him with a smile and raised his hand. An invisible force lifted Lu Yi up. Lu Yi looked at the person next to the sect master. Although she was dressed as a man, she had both the gentleness of a woman and the boldness of a man. Palace Master Pang. "Greetings, senior apprentice brother." Pang Huanin bowed, but it was not a woman's bow, but a man's fist salute. "Why are you guys?" Lu Yi didn't understand why the sect master came to Grand Sky City and why Pang Huanin came with him. "I'm here to work in Grand Sky City." As for Palace Master Pang, she's preparing to join the military prefecture guards, so she came with me. Work? Lu Yi was surprised. He didn't know what the sect master's job was. The sect master smiled, looking a little enigmatic. "You're still young, so you naturally don't know that the Jade Blood sect is part of the military prefecture guards elder group. It's just that I've been engrossed in cultivating my body all these years, so I haven't been here." Lu Yi instantly understood. In the past, the Jade Blood sect had a small population. Even if the Jade Blood sect had a seat in the elder group, the sect master had no interest in running the sect. He didn't even have any disciples, so what could he do in the elder group? But the situation was different now. Lu Yi had joined the military prefecture guards, and more Jade Blood sect disciples would join the military prefecture guards in the future. The disciples of other sects had elders to take care of them when they came here, so they wouldn't be bullied by others. Naturally, the Jade Blood sect couldn't do without them. Otherwise, it would be easy for something like last time to happen. Other things aside, when the Jade Blood sect disciples joined the military prefecture guards in the future, at least they wouldn't be conscripted to some special places. Lu Yi clicked to download the best book-chasing app. Many readers used it to read books aloud. Chapter 951. The sect master did not like to chase after fame and fortune. In the past, there was no one in the Jade Blood sect, so he was like a wild crane. He could come to Grand Sky City whenever he wanted. But now, for the future of his disciples, he had to come even if he did not want to. Looking at the sect master who suddenly appeared in front of him, the wandering feeling in Lu Ye's heart instantly disappeared, and he calmed down. Just now, he was thinking that the disciples of other sects would at least have fellow disciples or elders in Grand Sky City, while he was alone in the Jade Blood sect. Who knew that the sect master would come? "I'll go find some old friends to talk to." "Lu Yi, you're more familiar with Grand Sky City than Palace Master Pang. Take her to the recruitment department to complete the procedures." "No problem." Lu Yi agreed. The sect master left, and Lu Yi and Pang Huanin respectfully sent him off. "Palace Master Pang, this way." Lu Yi gestured. Pang Huanin glanced at him and said, "Senior brother is still so formal. I'm the palace master of the Ziwei Dao Palace, but in front of Brother Handsome, there's no need for senior brother to call me palace master every time." Junior sister Pang? Lu Yi was in a good mood and readily accepted her advice. "That's right." Pang Huanin smiled slightly. "It would be better if senior brother could remove the word Pang. Then why does junior sister want to join the military state guard? Has the Dao Palace settled down?" "It's settled down. It's all thanks to senior brother that I can come to the 9 states. Now, I have Elder Tang and senior sister Shui Yuan's help. But after all, I'm new here, so there are many things I need to slowly understand. I've already reached the true lake realm, so I want to be the vanguard for my disciples. I'll explore the military state guard first, and they will definitely come in the future." This was what Lu Yi thought. In the future, there would definitely be many disciples from the Jade Blood sect who would come to the military state guard. He could work hard here and lay a foundation for his junior brothers and sisters. As a pioneer, he had to cut through the thorns and cut through the thorns to reach his goal. Now, the Jade Blood sect and Ziwei Dao Palace were in a relationship. The two sects were in the Fragrant Mountain area, and they could help each other when they came to the military state guard. The future could be said to be very good. After chatting for a while, they arrived at the recruitment department. Coincidentally, Lishan was on duty today and could be considered an acquaintance. After all, it was easier to get things done with an acquaintance. When he saw that Lu Yi had brought a valiant beauty over, he winked at Lu Yi. No one knew what he was trying to say. Lu Yi pretended not to see it. When Pang Huanin reported her background, Lishan could not help but feel surprised. "You're from the Wushuang continent." Lishan had long heard that there was a Ziwei Daoist palace on the Wushuang continent that had joined the Jade Blood sect as its upper sect. A few months ago, when the sect was established in Mount Tung, it was very lively. However, Lishan had only heard about it and had never seen a cultivator from the Wushuang continent. Now it seemed that there was no difference between them and the cultivators of the 9 regions. However, Lishan's identity as the palace lord of Ziwei Dao Palace made him look a lot more serious. He couldn't continue winking at Lu Yi. His cultivation base was higher than Pang Huanin and Lu Ye's, but cultivation base was one thing, identity was another. After registering Pang Huanin, she used the battle merit plate to check her battle merit. Unsurprisingly, a white light appeared, indicating that Pang Huanin had not obtained any battle merit before this. Of course, this was normal. She had only been in the 9 regions for a few months and had been dealing with the affairs of the palace. How could she have the opportunity to obtain any battle merit? Walking out of the recruitment department, Pang Huanin played with her guard token with a curious look. However, she soon lost interest. There was nothing interesting about the guard token itself. Now that junior sister has joined the military state guard, the sect master should decide where you will be assigned. Junior sister, you just have to wait. This was the advantage of having someone in the upper echelons. When there was no one in the upper echelons, where the new state guard would be assigned depended entirely on luck. After all, the entire military state guard had a huge structure with many branches. Naturally, they would assign people to wherever they needed them. However, it was different with someone in the upper echelons. As a member of the elder group, the sect master had the right to interfere. Although the new realm's cultivation base was supreme, it was inevitable that some worldly wisdom was unavoidable. Pang Huanin nodded and looked up at the sun. "It's still early. Senior brother, take me around." "Okay." Lu Yi agreed readily. After all, he had nothing to do. However, he was not very familiar with vast Sky City, so he really just led Pang Huanin around to look around. Pang Huanin was very happy. When she was in the Wushuang continent, she had never seen such a huge city. After coming to the 9 regions, she had been staying at Mount Tung. Her knowledge of the 9 regions was limited to what she heard. It wasn't until this long journey with the hierarch that her horizons were broadened. At this moment, the difference between Jiuzhou and Wushuang continent, where she was born, was like heaven and earth. If Haotian City was compared to Jiuzhou, then Wushuang continent was a remote village that they passed by on the way. The world was vast, and the future was limitless. She was more and more grateful to Lu Yi for what he did that day. If Lu Yi and the others had not cut through the thorns that day, the people of the Wuxia continent would still have to suffer from the corpse clan every day. Perhaps one day, the entire Wuxia continent would no longer have a place for the human clan. At that time, the outcome would be tragic. The sky gradually darkened, but Pang Huanin was still in high spirits. The sect master sent a message. Lu Yi checked and led Pang Huanin in a direction. After a while, they arrived at the top of a small courtyard and landed straight down. The sect master stood in the courtyard with his hands behind his back. With his back facing the two, he looked unfathomable. Sect master. The two of them saluted together. Is it done? The sect master asked. It's done. Palace Master Pang has already joined the state guards. As for where he will go, I'll have to ask the sect master to decide, Lu Yi replied. The sect master nodded and said, there's no rush for now. I'll arrange it in a few days. You two can stay here for the next few days. This should be the sect master's residence in Vast Sky City. The treatment of the elder group was different from that of ordinary state guards. Although Lu Yi had the military rank of commandant, he still did not have a fixed residence in Vast Sky City. Every time, he would find an ownerless room to stay in. However, as a member of the elder group, the sect master was qualified to have his own small courtyard. In the future, he would finally have a fixed place to stay when he came and went to Vast Sky City. Thank you, sect master. I'll take my leave first. Pang Huanin said and left. She found a room and walked in. She could see that the sect master had something to say to Lu Yi. Lu Yi, come with me. The sect master said and walked toward the room in the middle. Lu Yi followed closely behind. After a while, the old man and the young girl sat down. He flashed out of Hupo's body and respectfully saluted, Greetings, sect master. She and the sect master were truly master and disciple. Almost all of her spells were personally taught by the sect master. Compared to Lu Yi, she had spent more time with the sect master and was closer to him. Get up. The sect master reached out and helped her up. He looked up and was suddenly shocked. Sect master, what's wrong with you? Lu Yi was also stunned. It was only now that he noticed something strange. The sect master's right eye seemed to be bruised. Looking at the traces left behind, it was clearly a fist print. Didn't he say that he wanted to talk to a few old friends? Why did he say that? The sect master was a divine ocean realm cultivator and had an extremely powerful recovery ability. However, there was still a fist print left behind. It was obvious how powerful this punch was. No wonder when they were outside just now, the sect master's back was facing him. Obviously, he didn't want Pang Huanin to see him like this. He didn't want to lose his dignity. The sect master laughed and stroked his beard. It's nothing. It's just a few old friends who haven't seen each other for many years, so we chatted a little more enthusiastically. The corner of Lu Ye's eyes twitched. He was also speechless. This enthusiasm seemed to be a little too much. Don't talk about me. The sect master waved his hand. Shui Yuan has already told me about your situation here. Sai, it's been hard on you. Lu Ye's expression turned serious. Sect master, you're too serious. This disciple didn't do anything. Our sect was desolate and lonely before. Because of some past events, even this old man was disheartened. I've made you run around and tired. But don't worry, in the future, this old man will be in charge of Haotian City. If there's anything, you can tell this old man. This old man will support you. Lu Yi immediately straightened his back. The sect master changed the topic. I heard Shui Yuan say that you're going to join the law department? Yes. Lord Nian Yuxian will be in seclusion for a long time, and there will be other divine sea realm cultivators coming to take over the Tsang Yen mountain pass. So before she left, she asked for my opinion and decided to join the law department. Today, I've already reported to the law department and met the head of the department. The head of the law department is Qian Wudong. Although he doesn't have much interaction with our sect, he's still a decent person. It's not bad for you to work under him. However, the law department is always on the move, and the missions carried out are also risky. You have to think about it carefully. This disciple understands. The sect master nodded slightly. Then I'm relieved. By the way, sect master, how is master? Lu Yi asked. Your master? The sect master stopped stroking his beard. The muscles under his eyes twitched as if he recalled something bad. Everything is fine. You don't have to worry about her. With that said, he took out a storage bag and handed it to Lu Yi. This is what your master asked me to give to you. Lu Yi took it, opened the storage bag, and couldn't help but be happy. This thing has been repaired? The item in the storage bag was none other than the dragon throne that he had brought back from the soaring dragon realm. This thing was seriously damaged before. When Lu Yi brought it back from the soaring dragon realm, he gave it to his master to repair. Now, after such a long time, it was finally repaired. The sect master shook his head. That's not the case. Your master said that the quality of this thing is extremely high, beyond the scope of what 9 regions cultivators can repair. What she can do is only some of the most basic repairs. The power of this thing can no longer be fully exerted, but it should be able to bring you some benefits. You still need to try and grasp the key points. In addition, your master also said that external forces can be borrowed, but they can't be relied on. A cultivator's cultivation should be based on oneself and should not be overly obsessed with the power of external objects. This disciple will remember. Chapter 952. The night was dark and the sky was filled with stars. Lu Yi left Grand Sky City and flew in a certain direction. Only after flying for 300 miles did he find a desolate place to land. Since the sect master had brought the Dragon Emperor over, Lu Yi naturally wanted to familiarize himself with its power. Although the Dragon Emperor was brought out from the Soaring Dragon Realm by Lu Yi, it was not native to the Soaring Dragon Realm. As for its specific origin, Lu Yi was not very clear. His honored master said that its quality was extremely high, beyond the scope of what the cultivators of the 9 states could repair. Judging from this, the Dragon Emperor's quality was probably above the spirit artifact grade. However, this thing was not the same as a normal spirit artifact. With Lu Ye's cultivation, he would not be able to activate a normal treasure above the spirit artifact grade. However, in the Soaring Dragon Realm, Lu Yi had activated the power of the Dragon Emperor once. Supported by the Dragon Ridge Saber with one slash, the altar that the Blood Race had painstakingly built shattered and the Blood River collapsed. The power of that slash had even cut into the Great Ultimate. Of course, the price he had to pay was extremely high. With just one slash, Lu Yi was like a lamp that had run out of oil. The power of that slash was not purely from Lu Ye's own body. At that time, he had the mandate of heaven, and the entire Soaring Dragon Realm was his backing. That slash was indeed from him, but it was also the power of the entire Soaring Dragon Realm. With the help of the Dragon Emperor's counterattack, it could be so powerful. If it were any other occasion, even if Lu Yi was now a third-order true Lake Realm cultivator, he would not be able to slash out such an earth-shattering slash. It could be said that that slash was the strongest Lu Yi had slashed out so far. He suspected that even if he reached the Divine Sea Realm, he might not be able to slash out such a slash again with his own strength. There was no need to talk about what happened after that. He was like a lamp that had run out of oil and did not have long to live. With the help of the broken source of the Soaring Dragon Realm, he was able to come back from the dead and even change his own cultivation aptitude. He even had the ability to reflect the Soaring Dragon Realm source. Lu Yi could be said to be looking forward to the Dragon Emperor. However, his honored master could only perform a simple repair on the Dragon Emperor. No one knew how much power the Dragon Emperor could exert now. Therefore, he wanted to try it himself. This place was desolate and quiet at this time of the night, so it was a good time to try it. Lu Yi took out the Dragon Emperor from his storage bag. It was a ball the size of a baby's head. It was scarlet in color, and there were scale-like patterns on the surface of the ball. Those should be real dragon scales. Lu Yi wasn't in a hurry to activate its power. Instead, he first gulped down a handful of spirit pills and a drop of soul-cleansing water. He was fully prepared. With the previous example, Lu Yi knew what kind of price he had to pay to use the Dragon Emperor. Although the Dragon Emperor might not be able to display the power she had back then and the price he had to pay would not be as high as before, he still had to be careful. He took a deep breath and poured his spiritual power into the ball in his hand. Then he used his own spiritual power to guide it. With a series of cracking sounds, the ball suddenly collapsed, turning into countless tiny scale fragments. Under the guidance of Lu Ye's qi, these tiny scale fragments climbed onto his body as if they had a mind of their own. A series of crackling sounds came from the secluded area as tiny scale fragments wrapped around Lu Yi. In the blink of an eye, a scarlet figure appeared where Lu Yi had been. The scarlet figure was tall, at least 10 meters in height, with a slender body and smooth curves, as if it had been created by the heavens themselves. A soft groan came from the scarlet figure, causing Lu Yi to frown inside the Dragon Emperor. Just like last time, the moment the Dragon Emperor was put on, it brought him an extremely intense pain. It was not an illusion, but a real stabbing pain. The entire Dragon Emperor seemed to have produced countless tiny spikes that were almost visible to the naked eye and pierced into Lu Ye's body. Even with Lu Ye's current physique, it was difficult for him to resist. When Lu Yi used the Dragon Emperor that day, he was only a 6th-order Cloud River Realm cultivator, so he didn't feel it too deeply. Now that he was a 3rd-order True Lake Realm cultivator and had developed his divine sense, he immediately noticed some clues. What pierced into his body were not the tiny spikes he had imagined. In fact, these things weren't even real. As for what they were, Lu Yi didn't know. Moreover, this stabbing pain didn't only affect his physical body, but even his soul was trembling slightly. The soul-cleansing water played a role in alleviating the pain Lu Ye's soul felt. Lu Yi could clearly feel that the Dragon Emperor was hungrily devouring everything it could from his body. Spiritual energy, physical strength, and even spiritual energy. With this kind of devouring, Lu Ye's foundation was constantly being drained away. However, what made Lu Yi feel slightly relieved was that this devouring process was much gentler than the last time. The last time Lu Yi used the Dragon Emperor, he couldn't control the loss of his foundation at all. It was terrifying. This was the fundamental reason why Lu Ye's slash had caused him to run out of oil. Although the power of that slash was supported by the mandate of heaven and the soaring dragon realm, Lu Yi, who had used the Dragon Emperor, had to pay a huge price. Although the rate at which his foundation was draining this time was not slow, it was still within an acceptable range. As such, as long as he removed the Dragon Emperor, Lu Ye's foundation would not be affected. Lu Ye's state of mind was raised, and the entire world became very different. Colorful lights flowed in his vision. Those were the colors of the world's spirit qi. Usually, Lu Yi would only be able to see these colors when he activated the spiritual runes of insight to strengthen his eyes. Everything around him seemed to have slowed down a lot. Hupe and Yi were watching from a short distance away. Both of them were in awe. In the spirit and tiger's field of vision, the Dragon Emperor's overall appearance did not change much. However, the current Dragon Emperor had many more complicated patterns than before. The crisscrossing patterns extended from her cheeks to her neck, chest, hands, feet, and even her back. It was like an extremely wild totem. This was clearly Madame Yun's handiwork. She had inscribed some spirit inscriptions on the surface of the Dragon Emperor. The tall scarlet body stood upright. 2 spots of dark red light bloomed in its eye sockets. Complemented by the wild totem, it gave off an extremely domineering and violent feeling. It was as if it wanted to tear apart everything in the world. Lu Yi silently sensed the current Dragon Emperor. Compared to before, the Dragon Emperor's absorption of his body was undoubtedly much weaker. This was a good thing. However, as such, the power he could unleash would probably be affected. He then took out the Dragon Ridge saber from his storage bag. The 16-feet-long saber seemed to be made of fresh blood. The body of the saber was not smooth. Every inch of the saber had a node that bulged slightly like bamboo joints. A blood-red light flowed on the saber's body, making it seem as if the saber was breathing on its own. With the saber in hand, an even more violent aura spread out. Even though he knew that Lu Yi would not have any ill intentions towards him, Hupa could not help but tremble. He even felt a chill all over her body. The saber danced. The 30 feet tall figure supported the 16 feet long saber. Within 30 feet, everyone was a match for an entire nation. The saber's afterimages were numerous. Hupe and Yi had already run a few hundred feet away. From afar, they could see the towering figure wielding the saber. As the figure moved, the two spots of light in its eye sockets dragged out two dark red ribbons of light in the dark night. Only after an incense stick's worth of time did Lu Yi suddenly sheath his saber and stand upright. The area within 1,000 feet radius was a complete mess. Amidst the crackling sounds, the Dragon Emperor was dismantled and turned back into a round ball the size of a baby's head. Lu Yi's face was slightly pale. His entire body was drenched in sweat. In just a short incense stick's time, Lu Yi had almost exhausted all of his energy. It was clear that the Dragon Emperor had expended a lot of energy. Even though its power had been greatly reduced and its energy consumption had decreased, it was still not something that could be maintained for a long time. However, no matter what, he had gained an additional treasure that could allow him to fight with his life on the line. After the experiment just now, Lu Yi had a rough idea of how the Dragon Emperor had improved him. However, this item could not be easily shown to others. It could only be used when he was in a desperate situation. All in all, Lu Yi was very satisfied with the current Dragon Emperor. In fact, he was even more satisfied than before. The previous Dragon Emperor was extremely powerful, but the aftereffects were also very strong. It was not suitable for him now. As long as the current Dragon Emperor used his combined strength, there would be no aftereffects. When Master repaired this item, he had obviously spent a lot of effort. He called out Ti and Hu Po and led them towards Vast Sky City. When they returned to the sect master's small courtyard, they found a room and went in to rest. The next day, Lu Yi, who had just recovered, received a message from Gan Wudong asking him to come to the law department immediately. Lu Yi did not know what Gan Wudong wanted, but now that he was working under Gan Wudong, he had to follow Gan Wudong's orders. After leaving the courtyard, he went straight to the law department's main hall. Soon he saw Gan Wudong. Lord. Gan Wudong nodded slightly and gestured with his hand. Sit. Lu Yi sat on the chair opposite him. There was a table between them. Lord, why did you summon me? It's like this. Gan Wudong looked troubled, as if he had encountered some difficulty. Didn't I tell you to join Team A3? Deceiving Kangxi, is there a change in the situation? Lu Yi asked. Yes, there are some changes. Gan Wudong nodded. Team A3 is full. As you know, teams in the law enforcement hall usually have 6 people in a team. The main reason is that it is convenient to use the 6 origin spirit restricting lock. Also, 6 people in a team can help each other. If there are too few people, it will be difficult to carry out the mission. If there are too many people, it will be a waste of manpower. Therefore, you probably won't be able to join Team A3. If that's the case, I can join another team. Lu Yi did not have any special requirements. If he did not join Team A3, he could join another team. Now that he was a member of the law department, he naturally had to listen to the orders of his superiors. He could not afford to be picky, and he did not have this problem. The other teams are not lacking in manpower. Gan Wudong raised his hand and pressed between his eyebrows. Lu Yi's eyes narrowed. What do you mean, Lord? Just say it. If Gan Wudong did not want him to join the law department because of some unspeakable pressure, Lu Yi did not care. Now that the hierarch was in Grand Sky City, he had a good place to go. At worst, he would just go to a small village. It was not a bad thing. He clicked to download the best book-chasing app. Many readers used it to read books aloud. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.